football focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're doing it. We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. We're going team by team.
I would be very careful about slinging stuff.
Am I going to get sued?
We got legal on this?
I like football, I like football season, all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live here on YouTube, and it's time to preview Week 10 in the NFL, Sam.
Correct. It is, Steve.
Past the halfway point now. We're previewing Week 10.
Everybody's past the halfway
point. We're all past the halfway point. So, yeah, we're going to get into all the games, of course. It's not a full week this time, Sam.
No.
So there's four teams on bye, some good teams on byes. Chiefs, Dolphins, and Eagles in particular, all on byes. But we're still going to have a great week of NFL action. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Maybe I lied to the people because the Thursday night game. No, I'm not going to make fun of the game. Eli's over there saying he can't wait for this game. He's in the booth saying, I'm looking forward to the game. And I'm looking forward to the Thursday night game as well.
Okay.
Panthers, Bears.
Just more tape for Justin Fields to study.
Oh, jeez. Panthers at the Bears, Thursday night football. Second time in, 5 weeks the Bears have been on Thursday night football. Bears are favored by 3. It's going to be Bryce Young versus Tyson Bagent. What if you said that about a year ago? It's going to be a couple rookies.
Yeah.
One guy, number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young out of Alabama. The other guy, Tyson Bagent, no, Division II Shepherd, is it?
Yes.
I don't keep track of every Division II team, even though I'm a former preseason All-American Division II. But Tyson Bagent, and Bagent's favored by 3 here.
Yeah, he is. So a third of the league this week are starting rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
8 rookies starting this week. That's pretty crazy.
It is.
10 have started this season.
It is. It's part injury issue. It's part, I think the league is transitioning from
by the way,
a lot of starting caliber quarterbacks are gone.
Remember
from the NFL.
You spent significant time yesterday being like, why is scoring down in the NFL?
That's really the answer.
Meanwhile, 8 rookies are starting this week. 10 have started this season. It's probably part of it.
That's the answer. Bryce Young coming off a game in Indianapolis where he threw 2 pick sixes, had been improving every single week. But
so the Bears own both these draft picks, right? What's the best thing that can happen for Chicago's draft?
I was thinking. I was taking the trash out the other day
because
I think I was thinking about this. I thought a tie would help.
No, because the tie is like a half a win for both of them, which means both picks are getting further away from the number 1 overall spot.
The Bears probably want to win, I would think.
Because Carolina currently only has 1 win, so you want them to stay at 1 win forever.
I think the Bears want to win, and then, I don't know. Bears probably want to win because you get a little bit of morale by winning.
Okay.
And you're not killing your draft status.
Yeah.
So I think if you're the Bears, you want to win.
I think that's probably true.
If you're the Panthers, you just want to win because you need wins.
Yeah, because things are looking pretty bleak at the moment.
So that's it. It's a pillow fight in the trenches. The Bears have the dead last pass rush grade for PFF.
Yep.
The Panthers are 3rd worst in pass blocking grade, only because the Giants exist. And
because the Giants exist.
I mean, that's really why. And the Steelers, actually. The Steelers are just a little bit worse than the Panthers. Giants are in their own world. I mean, the Panthers' pass blocking grade is 12 points better than the Giants. So just for perspective here. But yeah, the Panthers have struggled to protect Bryce Young. The Bears have struggled to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So something has to give here on Thursday Night Football.
Yep. Montez Sweat there now, of course. So can that make a difference against, at least they have one guy that can rush the passer at a reasonable level. Yannick Ngakoue theoretically as well. But, that should make a difference to them at some point. And this is a pretty good team for that to happen against.
Have we talked since they signed Montez to the big deal?
No.
They signed Montez Sweat to a big deal.
They did.
So they paid the 2nd-round pick for the right to negotiate early, as I said, and that's what they did. They got that deal done.
So does that change your take at all? Because you didn't like it. You're like, this is a bad move because they might not get him signed.
I still think it's a lot to give up because, again, going back to the balance sheet, Montez Sweat now needs to be worth the second-round pick, and all that money that you're paying him. Will he return that same value? That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, you don't know what that 2nd-round pick is going to be. That could be nothing. Like they've
Yeah,
paid
of course, but
the money
you can
the certainty.
project. I mean, you can project what the 35th, 37th pick does historically, how
gonna
much
be worse
how
than
much
Montez
it's worth
Sweat.
financially, what it's worth in wins above replacement.
Right.
You could put that up against what Sweat's going to bring in.
Right, but what it's worth is going to be worse than Sweat.
But you factor in the money too.
Right. So they're paying for knowing they're going to get a better return than that top second round pick.
I mean, it's a healthy price to ensure that you get the guy. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a healthy price.
But it is, like, it came in, now the guarantees are a lot higher, but the contract came in the kind of ballpark that people were talking about, right? Which is they had that Rashawn Gary contract set to work from. They've kind of used that as a guideline, only they've basically doubled the guaranteed money in it, which is a different dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, if you're of the mind that no one would want to go to Chicago in the offseason and Sweat was the best option at edge and they're so desperate there, I will say this, when we talked about the Bears rebuild last year and you were kind of lamenting they didn't do enough on the defensive line, and I said they just haven't gotten there yet. If it's a 3-year build, year 3 is going to be all about the defensive line. This is just step 1 of the defensive line, and there's a good chance they come out of next offseason with maybe a high draft pick on the line and Sweat, more help on the defensive interior, and we're saying, hey, the Bears look much better up front. That's going to be their focus this offseason. They did get a head start here. Mm-hmm. So anything else you're looking for in this game? Last time they were on Thursday Night Football, DJ Moore went off when Justin Fields was still there. Bagent has been up and down, 61 grade so far this season. Some good, some bad. Last week, 4 turnover-worthy plays, 3 picks.
Yeah, both quarterbacks are interesting to me for different reasons. I think I have this sort of disease that Football Manager fosters where you're constantly interested in the young player, even if they're no better than the other guy, like the older guy. Just because they're young quarterbacks, there's some kind of, you can sell yourself on the hope, right? So the Bagent narrative, Division II, Shepard, like you can sell yourself on the good of Tyson Bagent, even though there's bad accompanying it most of the games. Same with Bryce Young. Like you can talk yourself into the good things you see from Bryce Young and can at least excuse away the bad with the situation that's around him. So I think it's just an interesting game anytime you have 2 rookie quarterbacks going up against each other, even if the play isn't a particularly high level.
And we've talked a lot about the Panthers all year. Situation doesn't look great. And again, I know the AB analysis is the number 2 pick, CJ Stroud, is in an on paper, not great situation. On paper coming into the season, which turned into a good one, in part because of what Stroud's been able to do. But I think the Panthers got to figure something out besides just Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
As far as
it's
passing the
bad
ball.
there. Like our friend of the show, JT O'Sullivan, QB School, had
I saw that,
one of
yeah.
his most recent videos is a big, long look at the Carolina Panthers offense and the situation that Bryce Young's in, and it's not favorable to that. So, it doesn't mean that Bryce Young is playing well. Like, you're not saying, hey, the situation around him is bad. He's actually playing really well. It's all bad. He's playing badly, but the situation around him is very bad as well. And consequently, the offense stinks, right? Like, I have no doubt whatsoever that right now, if you put Andy Dalton in a quarterback, they would be better off. But that doesn't mean his career's done. Like, we're not saying the number 1 overall pick was a mistake at this point.
The one thing that we might be keeping an eye on here is from our friends over at Prize Picks. We have not a full lineup here for today, but Jonathan Mingo. We talked about this yesterday. More or less than 33.5 yards. That's the type of play you can make over at Prize Picks. Are you going to still say over for your guy Mingo?
No, I was still saying less, remember?
So you said less last time?
Yep.
Right. So remember, Prize Picks, you're just playing against their projection. So that 33.5, you're still going to say less?
Yes.
Even though that's your guy?
I have faith that
Go out on a limb and pick more.
I have faith that in the future, Jonathan Mingo will become a good NFL wide receiver. However, it is going to take some time, and he is not a good NFL wide receiver yet.
All right, so Sam's going to take less than 33.5 receiving yards for Jonathan Mingo. That's the type of thing you can do. And now with basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, you can have LeBron James and Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3 points made, 3-pointers made, and receptions. So we want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz. Was that the Colts dancing to some Meek the other day? Is that what I
Jim Irsay,
is that what I heard?
I think,
Jim
yeah.
Irsay going crazy? Mm-hmm. I'm sure Irsay's on Prize Picks with these guys. You can find them in the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player that exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second half, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/PFFNFL. Use code PFFNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/PFFNFL. Use code PFFNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Sam, as far as the game goes, Bears by 3. Where are you going with this one?
That's a lot of points to be given Tyson Bagent at any point ever. No, I can't. I can't buy into Tyson Bagent being a 3-point favorite ever in a game. I'm not doing it.
If there's a week, if the Bears are going to get something out of their young defensive linemen, Gervon Dexter and some of the guys that they drafted, Zach Pickens, those guys that they liked, this would be the week. But I'm going to say it's not the week. I'll give this maybe the time where Bryce Young has a little bit more time to throw, and he does some damage here on Thursday Night Football. Give me the Panthers as 3-point underdogs.
Same.
All right, is the Discord game of the week
It's in.
up? All right, is this Titans-Bucs?
It is.
So the Discord does a really good job of basically looking at the line and saying, this is the closest line. It's going to be the closest game on Discord. The Bucs, so Titans at Bucs, 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Bucs favored by 1 here. 3-5 Bucs, 3-4 Tennessee Titans. No, the Titans have more. They're both 3-5. Is that right? Man, we've hit the point in the season where I used to have the standings right up here in my noggin.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Now you just don't know anything.
Now, buys are throwing me off, and Titans they're both 3-5.
Yeah.
Listen, it's all right. I can admit mistakes.
Okay.
That was a mistake. They're both 3-5. What are you looking for in this one? Discord game of the week.
I mean, obviously, Will Levis is the story.
He is.
He's now the starter, which I think was the clear, correct decision. Didn't make any sense to do anything else after certainly the first 7 quarters of Will Levis's play. The 8th, the things went off the rails a little bit. But, I think Levis' situation is going to be interesting. We've already seen – so I was on Titans radio, our friends, Ramon Foster, Kayla,
yeah.
And it's like, on the one hand, the situation around him isn't bad because you've got Nuke Hopkins. We saw at the first game what that can do for you. You've got Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears in the backfield. Like, you've got a lot of players around him that can make plays. On the other hand, you still have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. And we saw that collapsing around him in the last game. So, the thing to monitor is essentially, is the offensive line so bad that it can undermine everything else? Like, the basic passing connection that Will Levis can forge with the receiving players around him, I think should be pretty good. And Derrick Henry is able to overcome some poor blocking a lot of the time. So is Spears, to be fair. But that offensive line is atrocious, and it's going to give up a ton of pressure, particularly around the edges. Like, the tackles were bad when they were healthy, and now they've been forced into the bench. That's just the whole dynamic. Is that bad enough to undermine everything? And as impressive as Will Levis has been at being aggressive and forcing the ball down the field, I can only imagine that the more you pressure him, the more of those turnover-worthy, lob it straight to the safety plays you're going to get.
We've talked a lot about Sam Howell being this highly volatile QB. That's #fun. Levis through 2 games is kind of #fun. I mean, just because he is driving the ball down the field. Now, he does part of it is schematic, right? When Tannehill was in there, Tannehill was taking as many deep shots as any other quarterback in the league as well from a percentage standpoint. But Levis is up there and then some. So part of that is, hey, they're running a lot of play action. They're taking those shots. And part of it is Levis does have a big arm. He can flick it out there. I think it may have been our friend Greg Rosenthal, throwing a Jay Cutler comp out there. This is what we're feeling when you're watching him. There's a little bit of that with Levis where there's some volatility, but you're seeing when it hits 2 weeks ago, the big plays, the 4 touchdowns, it can hit in a big way.
Right, but it's such a small sample size that like we don't even know if it's volatility at this point. Like he just imploded in the fourth quarter. Like in one drive, he basically had 3 of his 4 turnover-worthy plays.
And I don't even know if that's really imploding. You don't want to end the game by throwing the ball to the defense. However, you're down 4 points. They needed a touchdown, and you take some chances there. There were some bad ones. There were some bad decisions in there. There's some better decisions to be made.
Yeah.
But, like, you got to take those chances late in the game anyway.
I don't know if that represents volatility inherent in his game or if on one drive he just fired the ball at the defense 3 times, including, were they back-to-back plays or, like, very close together, the final 2? So, like, maybe that was just the situation handled very badly in a or maybe he is going to be this guy where 6 big-time throws versus 4 turnover-worthy plays is like that's his level. That's what it's going to look like. But I don't think we know that yet through 8 quarters of football.
I'll say this. I mean, through 2 weeks, the vibes around Levis are people are impressed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if
they should be.
But I don't know if that's because he fell to the second round and that immediately lowers standards. Like if he did go, all those rumors he was going to go number 1, like if he did go number 1 overall and he played like this over the last 2 weeks, would people have that same level of positive? I've been impressed overall. I think there's definitely something to build upon here. I'm interested in seeing now the other side of the ball. Second straight week, the Bucs play a rookie QB. Last week it was C.J. Stroud, who goes off for 470 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And the seat is getting a little warmer for head coach Todd Bowles. That's his defense that just got torched last week.
Yeah, you would hope that their defense puts up a better fight against Levis than it did against Stroud. It's a better matchup for them, I think, certainly in the coverage, like with the secondary. Houston's receivers, particularly Tank Dell, like the Bucs still have this group of like big, meaty, powerful, strong, sizable cornerbacks. And then they're trying to like keep hold of Tank Dell, this tiny, incredibly fast, nimble receiver, and it didn't go well at all. Carlton Davis just got victimized by that guy over and over again. Now, you're going up against Tennessee, who skew to the other end of the spectrum, like DeAndre Hopkins, big, strong, not even like that big, but like more of a possession, not going to get a ton of separation, wins at the catch point type of receiver. Like Carlton Davis, that's a better matchup for him. Like he would want that receiver versus try to keep hold of a Tank Dell.
I think when you watch Tampa Bay, the big question for me is who is their third option in the pass game. Clearly, Mike Evans can still play. Chris Godwin can still play. Evans remains a big play threat. Godwin remains one of the better possession receivers in the NFL. Who's the third option? They had Cade Otton make some plays last week at tight end, but I think that inconsistency is probably hurting the Bucs. Rachaad White's done some really nice things out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Love him in the pass game in particular. But who's that real third option at receiver? They haven't had someone step up other than, a few plays here and there from Trey Palmer, a few plays here and there from Cade Otton. I think they need that third option so it's not just Evans and Godwin for Baker Mayfield. Mayfield's consistency, same thing, a little up and down, right? There's some games last week he played very well and made some plays with his legs again. Some games he's just missing throws down the field. Bucs have to try to they had a nice game last week offensively, their best game, but it got overshadowed by the fact that their defense got absolutely torched. There's also a matchup in this game that everybody needs to watch. That is Titans center Aaron Brewer against Vita Vea at nose tackle. Aaron Brewer, the modern marvel, playing center in the NFL at a listed 6'1", 274. Yeah. Going up against 350-pound Vita Vea. And as you always say, Vita Vea at 350, who plays like a 350-pound monster at times, why can't he do that every single time? Versus Brewer, who looks like a Service Academy center and plays like that sometimes, right? He's just like low man wins, great cut blocker, right? He's like a Service Academy guy going up against Vita. That's must-see TV for me, for the football nerds.
Yeah, I mean, well, the interesting thing is going to be, do the Bucs actually see that and say, hey, this guy that looks like a nose tackle but doesn't actually play that much nose tackle, different story this week. You're actually going to play the Dexter Lawrence role and take that guy and move him 7 yards back every single snap.
And in the run game. I mean, Vita is still a run game wrecker for the most part. He was a little off last season, but he's a run game wrecker.
Yeah, but he does not line up the way Dexter Lawrence lines up, right? This true head up over the center nose tackle. Who
not as often. I mean, sometimes he does.
He does occasionally, but like he has 60 snaps lined up in nose tackle this season versus Dexter Lawrence, who plays there most of the time. But do the Bucs fundamentally change their front because they say, hey, you outweigh the center by 75 pounds. If you can't take this guy and put him 5 yards deep in the backfield every play, what are we even doing here? Because I would think about that if I was Tampa Bay.
And if you are trying to eliminate Vita Vea, the wide zone, outside zone type of game that Tennessee likes to run, getting him moving up and down the line of scrimmage, probably the right play. So that'll be an interesting matchup. The Bucs are still number 1 in EPA per play against the run. Some of that, I saw our friend Ben Baldwin kind of highlight, some of that skewed by forcing fumbles. Their success rate's a little bit lower. But Tampa Bay, always under Todd Bowles and with Vita Vea, can have those games where they're really stout from a run game perspective. And that's what happened to the Titans the other night on Thursday night. They became a little one-dimensional against the Steelers. You put a little bit too much on Levis, and that might lead to the volatility. So it's an interesting matchup on that side of the ball. Bucs favored by 1 here. Where are you going in this game?
I will lean into the Bucs, I think.
The Bucs.
Yeah.
The hot seat for Todd Bowles. There's also, we'll get into some Patriots coaching rumors in a second here. But one of the rumors out there, I can't remember if it's legit or not, I'm just repeating stuff I read on the internet. One of the rumors is that Bob Kraft might want Mike Vrabel as the next head coach
in
New England.
Not Josh McDaniels.
Well, maybe Josh saw it falling apart in New England, and he pulled a George Costanza, and you don't know any Seinfeld references.
No.
But Costanza tried to get fired. He was trying to get fired from the Yankees. He was trying to get George Steinbrenner to fire him. Maybe Josh McDaniels made that same play because he was sensing the New England job was opening up. And it was in Ziegler, he's like, come on, Dave, come with me. We'll go run the Patriots instead of the Raiders.
Yeah, because I'm dragging you down with me. So you're getting canned as well.
Just saying.
The job here is not an option anymore.
So I'm taking Tennessee, you're taking Tampa Bay. As a parent, you've had to learn so many new skills to provide for your family, how to do copious amounts of laundry, meal plan for even the pickiest eater, and now how to protect your family's financial future. Well, Fabric by Gerber Life provides an easy one-stop shop for your family's financial needs, offering high-quality term life insurance policies plus other financial solutions in one easy online hub. Fabric was designed by parents for parents to help you get a high-quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policy in less than 10 minutes. Fabric has flexible policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million of coverage for less than $1 a day. Get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply when it's convenient for you. It's all online and on your schedule. You can go from start to covered in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. MEET, fabric.com/PFFNFL. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. All right, Sam, are there any other games of the week this week? Let's just go in order. The 1 o'clock slate is actually really good, but I'm going to go in order from here on out. Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots. Colts are favored by 1.5. They're over in Germany. What's the look for?
I'm just waiting for where you're going on this.
Where I'm going to go with this game?
Yeah.
The next set of rumors that are out there through the Boston Globe and maybe not real rumors, but Belichick could be fired on the tarmac on the way home from Germany.
Fired in Germany.
Lane Kiffin style.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick's never won a game in Germany. He's kind of overrated as a coach. If you ask me.
Germany.
Yeah. Never won a game in Germany. Foreign games don't matter. Urban Meyer's 1-0 overseas. So
True.
It's not very telling.
No, but it means you're probably not going to get fired at the end of it.
Patriots are 2-7, and there are rumors that if Belichick doesn't win this game, he could get fired. Gerard Mayo finishes off the season. I don't necessarily buy that, but I'm just piggybacking off that he might want Bob Kraft might want Mike Vrabel rumor as well.
It doesn't feel like anything Kraft wants as a succession plan doesn't feel like it needs to happen during the season.
No.
Like nobody's available. Like you don't need to get ahead of it, right? To get somebody in. This guy's available. We got to act now. right? We got to fire him now, otherwise the deal disappears.
Especially because there's a potential trade value in Bill Belichick.
A lot, I would
There's
think.
a potential open job in Vegas. I mean, there's an open job in Vegas, potential open job in Washington. Who knows? But
You would have to think, whatever about
Belichick
how
should
it's
go to the
ending.
Jets.
Yeah, whatever
come full
about
circle.
whatever about how it's ending in New England, and it is ending by the looks of it. There's no way that Belichick doesn't still have quite a substantial trade value to other teams.
Yeah.
Like, people would still look at him. The rest of the league isn't looking at this and saying, oh, Belichick was a fraud the whole way. This is just Brady. Like, the way the shouty shows are doing, they're not saying everything we've learned over the last few years says Tom Brady was 100% the architect of the New England dynasty and Belichick was just a passenger. Like, they are looking at this and saying he's still one of the best defensive coaches in the NFL. Clearly, when a quarterback is there, it was good enough to create this dynasty. Like, he's a part of this, and he still has value. Let's go trade for this guy.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. Charles Robinson of Yahoo wrote the end of the real end of the dynasty article again this week, which was kind of saying that it wasn't the Patriot way, it was the Brady way. Again, I think there's truth in the highest levels of success are mostly driven by the quarterback, but you certainly can't throw out that Belichick has been a very good defensive coach. I do think from a personnel standpoint, they've been lacking the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to make this point for New England. And I think we made it on this show before. Like, if you're watching the Patriots on Sunday morning at 9:30, it's not like they have no players whatsoever, right? They have Jelani Tavai as this, rejuvenation project here from the Lions a few years ago. They've turned Jabril Peppers into a very good player. They have found players, maybe not as often as they did during the Brady years, but they're still finding players. But there is a massive drop-off in the pass game, and that is the issue in New England right now.
There's nothing wrong with saying this doesn't work without Tom Brady. Like, it doesn't mean you're saying he's worthless.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick is garbage.
Well, think about
without Brady.
The level is 6
Right.
championships and 10 straight AFC championships and every division.
And
all the level is so high.
Right, and we kind of knew this already, right? Like, Brady gets hurt, and Matt Castle comes in, and an undefeated team ends up winning 11 games, and misses the playoffs. Right now, it's an extreme version, it's a small sample size, etc. But like, that's probably a fair benchmark. That with Brady, they are contending with the Super Bowl every single year. Without Brady, they are a borderline playoff team in most seasons, and they're basically the Minnesota Vikings, right? Like, that's what we're talking about here. That's not an unfair thing. That doesn't make the coach bad. It just means that in order for them to have a dynasty, you need an all-time great quarterback or a great quarterback attached to it that becomes an all-time great when everything else is, like, when the combination is true. Like, this is just the way the NFL works. Like, Andy Reid goes from, I can win with pretty much anybody, but you give me Mahomes and we can make something special happen here.
So that's what's hanging over this game from a storyline perspective. As far as the actual on-field matchup, you've got Mac Jones and Gardner Minshew. Neither quarterback's really playing great. I did see some other numbers, QBR in particular, that likes Gardner Minshew this year, that he's showing well in QBR.
Okay.
They don't factor in turnover-worthy plays like we do,
where he has all of them.
This is a battle of the two leaders in turnover-worthy plays this year. Mac Jones with 18, Gardner Minshew with 17. I still think Minshew's a capable, quality QB, but his decision-making has not been great this year, as we've highlighted on the last few preview shows.
Yeah, I mean, this is the worst stretch of play that Minshew has had in the NFL. So you can look at that two ways. You can either say he's just not that good and now we're seeing it, or you can say he probably can't play this badly for that long. We've seen better from him and we're due. But
highest percentage of turnover-worthy plays really quick. Tyson Bagent, despite all the hype.
Yeah.
P.J. Walker, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder, Mac Jones.
Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily expect the good version of Minshew to suddenly manifest against the New England Patriots defense.
Yeah, I think the Patriots, they're still capable defensively. They're doing a nice job in the run game. I think Indy's run game versus New England's run defense is a pretty solid matchup. If they do make the Colts one-dimensional, could be an issue. And then again, New England offensively, they're in that rut where I don't think Mac Jones is playing great, but every single time he does seem to make a good throw. The game-ending interception that he put on Juju Smith-Schuster's hands, every time Mac Jones seems to make a good throw, receivers aren't coming down with it. So it's not a great group of receivers. Mac Jones not playing very well. I don't know if you saw Burt Breer's little analysis. He was trying to report from what they were seeing inside the building. Said there was a play last week where Mac Jones made an audible, called an audible, had Hunter Henry wide open down the seam, didn't throw it, and then ran for 3 yards instead. And so what I'm saying, it does feel like Mac Jones, like he doesn't look anything like what he looked like as a rookie as far as seeing the field, making good decisions. It's one of those things, when next time we have JT O'Sullivan on, why do quarterbacks go into slumps? What makes for a slump for a quarterback as far as seeing the field and vision and decision making? Not just like he's making some bad throws. Like there's something wrong from a decision making standpoint right now from Mac Jones that wasn't there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing like when a quarterback, Mac Jones, the calling card, the book on him was good decisions, smart processor, quick processor, accurate, all those things, right? Well, if you stop making good decisions, now you're just an accurate quarterback that's throwing the ball to the wrong place. So the accuracy doesn't make any difference either, and you don't have the tools to do anything else. So now you're just bad. That's the reality right now. If you've taken away the biggest strength that Mac Jones has, then we're not left with anything. And that's where the Patriots are right now. They need to get that version of Mac Jones back.
Yeah. So where are you going to go in this one? Colts favored by 1.5 in Germany.
I'm going to go with the Patriots.
You think Belichick's going to save his job here?
Apparently. I more think that Belichick is going to cause problems for Minshew.
Yeah, I'm going to go Indy here.
I also think, by the way, one sneaky element of the Patriots is that offensive line is better than it was earlier in the year. So like the platform for everything on offense is better. It just, now you need the other stuff to readjust to that.
I mean, they played a very good game just 2 weeks ago against the Bills. You know, it's trying to, or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. It's tough to figure out when that might happen for New England, but most games this year they've been overwhelmed. Give me Indy. No, give me New England. They've just burned me every time I expect them to bounce back. Like, they should be better. They should be better. I like this matchup against the Colts. All right, Packers and Steelers. Steelers favored by 3 here against the Packers. Of course, the Steelers trying to keep pace in the loaded AFC North. Over under 39 via DraftKings. What are we looking for here in this game? I think over under. I think there's only 2 games over 42 this year or something this week.
That's not great.
No. I mean, I like defense.
You like defense?
Yeah.
Do you, though?
Sometimes. I like good defense, not bad offense.
Good defense, not bad offense.
Potential, just going to throw this out there, potential George Pickens squeaky wheel game.
You think they're just going to feed George Pickens?
Yes. I saw our friend Brett Coleman had one of his, he had his picks out there. Had, some same game parlay out there, and he needed one of those. It was like one of those gimme parlays that you get from companies. Mm-hmm. And all he needed for George Pickens was over a half yard receiving. And he didn't get it.
Yeah,
because he had -1.
I thought, didn't we talk about that extent? Oh, no, that was with Trevor. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You weren't on that show because you're only a part-time podcast.
Yeah, I was working that day on Friday.
Yeah.
My bad. Well, more people are watching us now than we're watching the Friday recap show.
That's
there.
true.
So some people didn't hear that story. It's kind of like when they say what they say in radio, Sam. In radio, you have a new audience every 7 minutes.
7 minutes?
Every 7 minutes. Which is why if you listen to the same radio show for 3 straight hours, they're going to say the same stuff at the top of every hour and repeat themselves because it's a whole new audience. We're live on YouTube. We might have people coming and going. And I know certainly there's different people that will listen last Friday versus this Thursday. So it's okay to repeat yourself. And I'm going to stop apologizing for repeating myself because I do it a lot.
That's fine.
All right, carry on. What are you looking for in this game?
Okay, so you got an interesting schematic matchup where Pittsburgh just doesn't target the middle of the field for whatever reason. I think Green Bay's strengths are on the perimeter at corner rather than in the middle of the field. So that becomes kind of fascinating. The other thing is, like, does anybody even need to watch this game before, like, the fourth quarter?
Kenny Pickett.
Well, Kenny Pickett and Jordan Love's first half, second half splits are insane.
Oh, I like that. That's good. I might black it out. I'll black it out for the first 3 quarters and then tune in.
That's what, okay, so in the fourth quarter this season, Kenny Pickett has a grade of 81.8 and Jordan Love is at 63 points. So his 67.3 rather. So his good must come in the third quarter. It does.
I posted it after the Thursday night game, but over the last 2 years, since Kenny Pickett has entered the league, in games within 7 points in the fourth quarter, the highest graded QBs in the NFL, Tom Brady from last year, Kenny Pickett, Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, so first half grades for these two are basically the same. Kenny Pickett has a 55.7 PFF grade, passing grade in the first half, and Jordan Love is at 53.2. And then Jordan Love seems to come alive in the third quarter, and then Kenny Pickett saves it till the fourth quarter and becomes Tom Brady. So this game essentially, don't watch the first half. Tune in in the third quarter to see Jordan Love and the Packers pull ahead, right, and establish what looks like an unassailable 10-point lead. And then the fourth quarter will be Kenny Pickett coming back and pulling another ridiculous win out of the bag when the Steelers are outgained and outperformed by he'll get a touchdown in the final seconds to pull it out. So there we go. That's the game. That's how it's going to go. What's the line? Pittsburgh by 3. So they will end up being.
They'll win by 4.
Yeah, the Kenny Pickett will cover with the final couple of plays of the game with a winning touchdown.
I'm putting it in. Pittsburgh. Cut that audio, and we'll just play that Monday morning.
That's going to be
the recap.
That's going to be the Baker Mayfield thing. Remember when was it? It
was Baker. Yeah, you predicted Baker off the bench.
Predicted Baker off the bench, and we predicted Nick Mullins tearing up the Raiders.
You did.
Yeah.
We had a stretch of really predicting those Thursday night games back in 2018 at a very high level. I assume on that Friday show you talked about all the crazy Steelers stats coming into the season in the recap show.
Yeah, yes.
It's the opposite. You know the tungsten arm, O'Hallahan or whatever, tungsten arm joke? You know the joke about Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, that famous tweet that was going live?
No.
So it's something like every...
I do at least know who both those people are, though.
Okay. So somebody tweeted a while back, it's like everything I see about the Angels is Shohei Ohtani just did... Mike Trout goes 3 for 5 with 2 home runs, and Shohei Ohtani just did something that's never been done since old tungsten arm or something back in 1920, and the Angels lose 5-3, right? Because the Angels have 2 of the best players of all time on their team,
right? And
they keep losing. And I just made the point that the Steelers are the opposite of that tweet, which is they just set this record for being outgained in every single game, and they still have a winning record. Everything that the Steelers do makes no sense.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they're winning. That's the Steelers.
Yeah, like every stat you see for the Steelers is like a record for futility, particularly in offense, and yet they win the game at the end of it.
They are undefeated when Matt Canada is at field level, though. 1-0.
1-0.
And I assume he'll be back at field level.
Well, you can't go back now. I mean, you have to keep him at field level. Not that, I mean, it's just...
A couple matchups to watch in this game, though. Squeaky wheel George Pickens.
Okay.
Him against Jerry Alexander anytime they're matched up. Last week we talked about Carrington Valentine, the 7th-round rookie, had a really nice game.
Great game.
Zach Tom, the right tackle for the Packers against T.J. Watt, is a nice little matchup.
Yikes.
And then Rashawn Gary, anytime he's rushing the passer, both sides against the Steelers' offensive line, both tackles, all 3 tackles, having some issues as far as pass protection goes. Broderick Jones got the start last week at right tackle. He'd done pretty well for 3 quarters. He was the opposite of Pickens. Finally started losing some reps in the fourth quarter, but they didn't really matter because Pickett got rid of the ball quickly.
Yeah.
Matchups to watch there.
Mm-hmm.
So are you taking Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
because you've just described.
Yes, I've illustrated how they are going to win by 4 points and cover in the final moments of the game.
Perfect. All right, let's go Cleveland Brown. I'm also taking Pittsburgh.
Dontavian Wicks, by the way, for the Packers, receiver, is sort of becoming a bigger part of that offense. And okay, he had the cartoon Looney Tunes fumble last week where he literally threw the ball at the corner from the floor. That wasn't great. Outside of that, though,
that wasn't great.
He caught 4 targets, 4 catches. Each one of them, I think, moved the chains. Like, he's actually becoming a significant part of this offense. and is like a player worth watching. Like, assuming he doesn't throw the ball to the defense again, he's a useful player that they can target.
Caught my eye when we were watching them in person in training camp.
Oh yeah,
Wicks. Yeah. All right, let's go. Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. What's the line here? Ravens by 6 against the Browns. Rematch from week 2, I believe it was. And week 2, Ravens won, and it was P.J. Walker game.
Yeah, so this
Watson
is 6.
got hurt on opening night.
This is 6 even with Watson.
Am I in the right? What week was it? Sorry, it was week 4. My gosh. 28-3, the Ravens won in the last matchup.
Yeah, but this is 6 even with Deshaun Watson as the QB. Is that what we're...
I mean, you put 6 into the...
6 is the correct line. I'm
Yeah.
just like...
I don't think Watson's been hurt.
That's what
I
I'm
apologize. Let me reset this whole thing. This was DTR got the start. It was kind of last minute. Dorian Thompson-Robinson got the start. He had 3 actual interceptions, 5 turnover-worthy plays, sacked 4 times, PFF grade of 38.2. That's what happened back in week 4. There was a few short fields for the Ravens. I think they had one really long drive in there as well. And this was where the Browns had their defense still has great numbers, but the Browns had ridiculous numbers defensively through 3 weeks. Ravens were the first team to have a little bit of success against them.
Deshaun Watson not on the injury report for the
I think
first
he's
time
back in
forever.
But it's Baltimore at home where they have been whooping teams, particularly NFC teams, like
Sure.
the Lions and
But
the Seahawks.
the Browns probably still have the best defense in the NFL, and Deshaun Watson, for whatever he's been in Cleveland, is a notable step forward at the quarterback position from DTR or PJ.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, Watson's finally playing a little bit better. I mean, we coming into the season, 2 things we said that haven't gone exactly as is, but we said if Watson plays 75 PFF grade type of football, the Browns will be much better. What we didn't know is that the Browns defense would be this as good as they are. And so I think that's true even more today than it was back in August when we said that, because if the Browns defense keeps it up, their pass rush has been relentless. They play more man coverage than any team in the league, and they make QBs have to make difficult throws against that D. And if Watson can build on last week, they're a tough team.
2 ends of the head coach speak spectrum here. On the one hand, you've got Arthur Smith giving a 5-minute diatribe to explain why Bijan Robinson isn't getting the ball in the red zone. I watched all 5 minutes, and I still don't know what the answer is. On the other hand, you've got Kevin Stefanski, when asked about Deshaun Watson's health, simply replied, "He's good." That's it. Done. Answered. Next.
He also said he's going to start in a game where he had no chance of starting.
Whatever.
That's cool, though.
He's back. He's back and he's ready, and he's not PJ. That's the important thing.
Yeah, it makes for one of the more intriguing games in the NFL this week. You always get that Myles Garrett versus Ronnie Stanley matchup at left tackle. Ravens' offensive line was outstanding last week against Seattle. That's going to be one of the matchups of the week. Baltimore's offensive line against this Cleveland defensive front.
Other than that one play where Stanley got ruined by
probably 2 plays. But
Leonard Williams.
And Boye Mafe. 2 plays.
Okay, yeah.
I think, right, total?
Yeah.
But other than that, they were great. Ravens defense also looking outstanding. Yeah, I mean, it feels like a lot of the moves that we really liked from Baltimore that we thought were shrewd through the years are just coming true here. Center Tyler Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton in the first round a couple years ago when they traded Marquise Brown. Trading for Roquan Smith, finding something in his game that said he's going to fit better in Baltimore than he did in Chicago, and that's been true. A lot of those things are really starting to pay off, I think, here for the Ravens.
Yeah, and Geno Stone leading the league in interceptions, even if it is a Jarius Byrd type season where the ball is just being magnetized in his direction, it's still happening. Like, it doesn't matter why it's happening. The fact that it's happening is the important part for them.
Yeah, that's huge. And then going back to the Watson thing, 78.5 grade last week against Arizona. I apologize, I was wrong I misspoke. I read the comments. I misspoke on Monday. And I said that Watson went 1 for 5 with 2 interceptions against the Colts in that little start that he had that lasted 5 dropbacks. He had 2 turnover-worthy plays, not 2 interceptions, right? So sometimes I look at the right stat and not the real stat.
What percentage of this show is now just you correcting previous incorrect things you said?
5%,
Okay.
give or take.
All right.
I could be wrong about that, though. And I can adjust
We
on
can
the
correct it on Monday.
Yeah, I'll correct it.
Yeah.
That'll be part of the 5%.
Great. Perfect.
But Watson's last 2 starts where he started and finished, week 3 against Tennessee, 27 of 33, 74.6 grade. He was good other than the play that he threw the ball backwards that game.
That wasn't great.
Right? And then last week against Arizona, his 2 highest grades. Let me make sure I don't misspeak here. I believe, let me go back to 2022. Yes, those are his 2 highest grades as Browns quarterback.
Perfect. And they've come
In his last 2 starts, games in which he started and finished.
Right. They've come in essentially his last 2 healthy starts. If
Correct.
we assume that the Week 7 game, where he lasted 5 dropbacks and broke himself again, was probably one he shouldn't have been out for.
So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
One matchup I always highlight when the Ravens and Browns play each other is JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And with how often the Browns like to play man coverage relative to the rest of the league, JOK in a spy type situation with Lamar Jackson. I don't know if that's a part of the game plan or not, but it would be for me because JOK can move and the Browns can play that man coverage. And I think it's going to be a great matchup on that side of the ball.
The only receiver the Browns have grading well is Amari Cooper this year. So everybody else has a receiving grade of in the 50s or 40s. One of them was traded away. And it's just Amari Cooper, effectively.
Cooper's mostly been QB proof, whether it was DTR or PJ Walker. That's where the big plays went.
And that's not factoring in David Njoku, by the way. He would be the other one grading well, but a tight end.
Yeah. Well, and Njoku against another matchup, too. Kyle Hamilton has a 90 grade when covering tight ends this year.
Tight end eraser?
He's in that ballpark there, right? Kyle Hamilton's making some big plays against tight ends, so you get Hamilton against Njoku as another matchup to watch. A lot of fun matchups in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the point I was making, though, is that Cleveland have a very defined, like, there are 2, maybe 3 people you need to be concerned about as a defense. Like, if you can guard Amari Cooper, then guard David Njoku, and then just pay attention to Kareem Hunt out of the backfield, you're set. Because nobody else is a threat, apparently, at this so far this year. Like, their game plan on defense should be, we're going to force Elijah Moore to carry this offense as a receiver because there's no evidence so far that he can do that.
This is just from a storyline perspective. I used to say this about Cousins. When they paid a lot of money in Minnesota to bring Cousins in, and I said, "This is the game, right? This is it for Watson. This is why you brought Deshaun Watson in. This is why
you drop kick Baker Mayfield out of the building to bring Deshaun Watson in, and everything that went along with that. Like, this is why. If you can't do it now, what did you do?
And really, it's the next 2 weeks. It's Ravens and Steelers, the next 2 weeks, in a division where everybody's 5-3 or better. You've got the Jags in a few weeks as well, the Texans, the Jets, the Bengals, the last game of the season. Like, this is the stretch. Why you took the PR hit that you took in Cleveland. You were willing to suck that up for whatever it's worth to bring in Deshaun Watson because this was supposed to get you over the hump as a team. And I think the Browns, as an organization, have done a really nice job building this team. That's why they're 5-3 despite the quarterback situation this year. This is the game. Massive game. Deshaun Watson. Can he put his best foot forward here against the Ravens, who are 7-2 and might be the best all-around team in the AFC right now? So
In the NFL.
Or in the NFL. So where are you going in this game? Baltimore favored by 6.
I'm going with Cleveland. I buy that defense generally, and I think that Deshaun Watson, a quarterback, is just a different proposition for them than either DTR or PJ.
I'm also taking Cleveland. I've
6
agreed with
points
you
a
a lot.
lot.
I know, it feels like a lot for a team. I think this game
Versus the best defense in the NFL in a year where points are down. I mean, that's a lot.
The last 2 games, though, Baltimore at home.
Sure.
Let me grab those. What was it? 37-3 and 38-6.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 home games against
Good teams.
Against good NFC teams.
Right.
Right. Which might, I don't know, maybe that's an NFC thing, but it is at home for Baltimore. Last week we had a lot of the same picks. I think I ended up with 8. You had 6. I do have to tally our picks at some point. The previous week I had 3 wins. You had 6.
Are we still losing to your 8-year-old?
He might be back this week. He had to miss last week, so we'll have to we'll have to use win percentages.
For disciplinary reasons? Broke team rules?
He did break team rules. Had to skip football last week. We'll see if he's back this week, and we'll get his picks. All right, I'll also take Cleveland, getting the 6. New Orleans Saints at the Minnesota Vikings. Saints favored by 2.5 here. A couple 5-4 teams. Saints maybe finally hitting their stride these last couple weeks, and the Vikings, of course, they're hot. 5-4 now, or 5-4 now after an 0-3 start, and Josh Dobbs.
It's only one team. Yeah, only one team in the NFL has a longer win streak than the Minnesota Vikings.
They're playing well, man.
And it's not the 7-1 team, by the way, either. It's Jacksonville.
And they did it with Dobbs, with just in a backup role, not even knowing the cadence. I mean, not even
didn't know anything.
Team not knowing anything.
Didn't know his teammates. Didn't know his cadence. Didn't know the plays. Knew nothing.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
He had a fun Instagram post showing Creed and everything. Everybody's throwing the Creed, shout outs for Kirk.
Yeah. Did you see the Vikings fan decked out in the Vikings gear, shave his eyebrows after the game in solidarity with Josh Dobbs?
See, there are people who go to games that do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're not the type of people that listen to our podcast. I don't think that we attract the guy that shaves his eyebrows to match the starting quarterback, the guy that paints his face, the guy that tailgates for 19 hours a day, starting on Saturday, getting into Sunday, and that's their whole weekend. I don't know if we get too many of those listeners.
I don't know. Face painting seems like a low level, you can get into that. Eyebrow shaving that's some pretty high level commitment.
Yeah, but the guy that wears the Viking, you wear all the gear and that's your thing. Or Fireman Ed. Fireman Ed's not listening to our show. He's just I'm just going to root for the Jets every week.
Vikings have one of those guys, right? What's his name? I forget the guy's name. But the guy that used to catch Randy Moss every time he scored a touchdown. Moss would always go to the one dude dressed up as the Viking. I forget what his name was.
The point I'm trying to make is those guys go to great lengths and everything. Yeah. They're not bigger football fans than I am.
You keep saying that.
They're not.
They are.
They're not a bigger football fan.
You would never shave your eyebrows to match Josh Dobbs as your quarterback.
That's not the thing that puts you over the top.
It is.
In fandom.
That means he's a bigger fan than you.
Just because I'm sitting in my X chair every single Sunday with 12 games on at any given time, that's my way of being a big football fan. The guy that's going to shave his eyebrows is not a bigger fan than me. That's not a better show of solidarity with the game of football than what I have, what I do.
You would never shave your eyebrows for your team, and that makes him better than you.
I wouldn't shave my eyebrows for much.
That's what I'm saying. That's why he's a better fan than you.
He's not a better fan. They're not bigger fans. The guy in the same row at the Bengals game the other day that was wearing the overalls with the Bengals stuff, that was drinking all day and I'm a big Bengals fan. He's not a bigger fan than me of football.
Forget the eyebrow shaving. You're just objectively a terrible fan. When Tom Brady left the Patriots, you're I'm not even a Patriots fan anymore.
I'm not a fan.
You outright abandoned your team the second your quarterback left.
Unbiased football analyst.
You are an awful fan.
Unbiased football fan.
So, of course the eyebrow shaver is a better fan than you.
I told you that.
So is, in fact, almost everybody.
Unbiased football analyst here is what I am. So we're gonna. But I'm a football fan of football. I root for the Shield.
Rob Lowe.
I'm Rob Lowe.
That's the kind of exactly. That's my point. In a nutshell,
that's a football
done.
fan.
You've made my point.
I'm a fan
of
football.
Me. You are the Rob Lowe of football fans.
Let's stick to the game, Sam. Let's stick to the game. 2.5. Saints are favored here in Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, the Josh Dobbs thing was fun last week. He played well last week. It was all sparked by, his ability to scramble, essentially. That's what started the comeback. Was that crazy play where he was backed up to the 32 and ends up getting a first down at the 3-yard line. The Saints have got this aggressive defense. They're going to be aggressive up front, but they're going to be aggressive with the receivers as well. They beat up receivers. They challenge throws at the catch point. One of the most amazing things about that game to me was, despite knowing nothing, Dobbs didn't put the ball in harm's way a lot in terms of throwing. Now, there were fumbles, etc., but I was amazed how few sort of bad decisions with the football he made.
Yeah.
Even just, you would have expected multiple miscommunication plays where I'm throwing here thinking a receiver's going to be there, and he wasn't because I don't know the play. And it didn't happen. So are the Saints going to be able to manufacture a couple of those really big passing mistakes from him? Because if they are, I think that's enough to win the game. But if Dobbs can keep it clean again, between the offensive scheme and his athleticism, there's enough there.
I always feel like the Saints' defense, their pass defense is maybe better than it is. And it could just be because over the last few years, they have those elite shutdown types of games. This year, the Saints, 12th best EPA per play allowed in the pass game. But as we saw last week, Paulson Adebo is playing great, making plays on the ball. Marshawn Lattimore still there. I do wonder from a Minnesota perspective, are they just really good at receiver beyond Justin Jefferson? Or like, are they good, better than we thought with Addison and what they've gotten from guys like KJ Osborne, what they've gotten at tight end from TJ Hawkinson? Are they just better than we anticipated? And it actually would have been when Justin Jefferson gets back, and if Kirk was still there, they're actually really dangerous.
Yeah, which is only a week away, by the way. Like they've activated him essentially now.
Jefferson's practicing, and I'm not saying they're going to be. Look, Kirk Cousins is better than Josh Dobbs. The Josh Dobbs story is amazing, but maybe Minnesota's even more dangerous in the passing game than we anticipated because of Addison's emergence and what the trickle-down effect of everyone else stepping up without Justin Jefferson.
I mean, I think
that matchup, I'm saying, with the Saints defense is a good one here.
Yeah, I think Addison is very good. Having said that, Addison is now, I don't know that this is a great matchup for them. So Addison is very good. The characteristic of those New Orleans DBs is aggression, physicality.
Yep.
That's still the area of Addison's game that you have the most concerns about. There was another play, I think last week, where ball's in his hands, hit comes in, ball comes out of his hands. Like, remember we talked about that the first time it happened, a couple of times in a single game, and you're like, was that just two quote-unquote freak instances but back-to-back, or is that like a thing that highlights his relative lack of strength and size? It happened a third time. It's still small sample sizes. It might just be a run of 3 plays where that's the thing, or that might be you're not as strong as Nuke Hopkins or T. Higgins or guys that are bigger than you. So this is another test where the thing the Saints are going to be testing is that physicality and that strength and that kind of thing. So if Addison isn't able to be a big factor in this game, now you're turning to KJ Osborne, to Brandon Powell, who's been pretty good actually, to TJ Hawkinson, to other players in that offense. It is different.
Other side of the ball, after weeks of expecting the Saints to break out, I think they have these last couple weeks offensively looking much better. Taysom Hill getting involved, and I feel like at the right times. Again, our friend Greg was like, hey, I wasn't expecting Taysom Hill to have maybe his best season at 33 years old, whatever he is, without Sean Payton. But here we are, Taysom Hill having a game like last week where he's throwing for a touchdown and he's catching a touchdown, and maybe it's the right time, right? Where a couple of years ago, I didn't like taking Drew Brees off the field for Taysom Hill, but given that as much as we've highlighted Derek Carr's struggles in the red zone, not just this year, but in previous years as well, Taysom Hill as the red zone change of pace might be just the right balance here for the Saints offense.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
So Saints offense against this Vikings defense, the Vikings' second worst pass rush grade in the NFL. Saints bottom 5, bottom 8 pass blocking unit. I don't know if the Vikings can take advantage of that. So I kind of like the Saints to have another good game offensively here.
Yes, unfortunate though it is, I'm agreeing with you. I also am going with the Saints. We got an email in live on the show just to fact check your
What did
idiocy.
I do now?
This one is from Philly Joe, frequent emailer, I believe, of the show. Hey Sam, listening live. Steve just said that the guy who tailgates for 15 hours a day does not listen to your show. I am that guy and daily listen. I'm also a bigger fan than Steve, who roots for the Shield. That's super lame.
Billy Joe.
It's hard to argue with any of that.
All right, throw this in the 5% of the show that I correct myself. I stand corrected. I appreciate Philly Joe. I assume he's let's have him respond again. I assume he's a Philly fan.
He is. His sign off on his email, his signature includes the phrase "Dallas sucks."
Oh, that's good.
So that's just another way he's a bigger fan than you.
That's dedication.
Uh-huh. You would never do that because you're not that big a fan.
All right, I need more information on the tailgate. I'm not a drinker, so I wouldn't drink. But if there's good food there, I wouldn't mind coming by the tailgate at some point, hanging out. If you got food, I'm going to invite myself
To his tailgate?
Yeah.
In Philly?
Yeah.
Okay.
at some point.
That seems pretty presumptuous of you, particularly for a guy who's only interested in the Shield.
Would he have me? I like food. I like good food from tailgates.
Yeah.
Yeah, could do that. Maybe you'd have me as a dedicated listener.
Maybe.
All right, as I said, the 1 o'clock slate is solid. San Francisco 49ers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Niners lost 3 straight. They're 5-3 coming off their bye. Taking on the Jags, also coming off their bye. They're 6-2.
With the longest win streak in the NFL.
That's what you just looking at win streaks this week.
We already covered that a
Jags
minute or
1,
two ago.
Vikings 2.
And now it's come up. Yeah. Jags 1. There's 3 or 4 teams tied with 2.
Dynamite drop in.
Thank you.
Debo Samuel, likely back here.
Same with Trent Williams, right?
I think so, yeah. In this world of on-off splits and A/B analysis and all that, and
Yes.
We've had a lot of these things with the Niners, right? Because they when Brock Purdy showed up, they became really good and didn't lose. Mm-hmm. But he also showed up right after Christian McCaffrey showed up as well.
Right.
And Christian McCaffrey had made an impact when Jimmy G was out there. Now we have Debo Samuel gets hurt, and the Niners just fall apart. Start losing.
And Trent Williams.
So we've got a lot of these.
It's never clean. There's always 2, at least, possible explanations. Or the third option, door number 3, where it's both of them at the same time, creates the thing. But either way, they're both back this week. So the 49ers theoretically should be back to where they are and snap the 3-game skid.
Yeah, Trent Williams officially questionable. He sat out practice, but he's at that point of his career where, he can sit out practice.
But he's been back at practice and,
yes,
looking like he might actually give it a go.
So on one hand, you would say, of course, Brock Purdy has regressed a little bit. The defense is catching the passes that he's throwing to them, and they weren't earlier in the season. That's still probably just the answer. But there is something about this Niners team being fully healthy, fully loaded, and that is what makes them very difficult to stop. So great matchup against a Jags defense that's number 4 EPA per play allowed against the pass and has been stout against the run as well.
Yeah, Jags have had a good defense. I think really the thing to focus on is those returning players. Do we see the 49ers offense bouncing back to what it's supposed to look like? Because, look, the Cincinnati defense, Cincinnati generally, like the Bengals right now, there honestly might not be a better team in the NFL than the Bengals right at this moment. So it's the one loss the 49ers have had that makes sense, that's excusable. Losing to Minnesota the way they lost makes no sense and isn't excusable. Like the other 2 games are the ones to be concerned about from a 49ers perspective. And the fact that they came back-to-back. Like, the Cleveland one, right? You can excuse, and that's an elite defense as well, but you can excuse one bad day at the office. It happens. Everyone loses a game, pretty much, whatever. Doing it again the next week, that's bad. And then the third game just makes it look worse because it's 3 in a row, but that was the one that makes the most sense. So, point being, can they actually bounce back now with these guys returning and right the ship and make the point that they are theoretically one of the best 4 teams in the NFL still?
Yeah, I mean sometimes that's the fun thing about the NFL. It's like when you play a team,
right?
If you had played the Bengals in the first 5 weeks, I mean the Titans with Tannehill, who's now been benched, the Titans with Tannehill destroyed the Bengals, right? I mean that stuff just happens at different times of the year. I still love this matchup, though. Kyle Shanahan going up against a really good Jags defense, as we've said. Darius Williams at corner playing really well. Just the secondary in general for the Jags playing really well. The other thing I want to highlight is the Jags linebackers, right? In those, we talk a lot about Shanahan and the stress he puts on the defense and how it's mostly directed at linebackers, right? I mean, those are the guys that are that he puts on a string, and you got to play the run, and you got to play the pass, and all that. The linebacker play for Jacksonville has been really good. Foye Olakun, Devin Lloyd, second-year player, playing extremely well. And if you look at the games that the Niners lost, the teams that beat them, Bengals, the Vikings, the Browns, they got really good performances from their linebackers in those games. So to me, that's the matchup to watch here, what the Jags have done at the second level, because they're not rushing the passer great. I mean, we've highlighted that a bunch this year, where it's really Josh Allen having an excellent season off the edge for the Jags. They're not getting much pressure elsewhere. So to me, it's that back 7, particularly the linebackers and safeties, who are going to make the difference here maybe for the Jags.
Yeah, I was curious. I just fired up the data now.
I love it. Yeah, so like the live look-in, right? It's like people are joining us in our game research. We're doing it live on the air.
Linebacker play generally in the NFL is up this year. If you notice the PFF grades, there's a lot more grading well corresponding with this whole defense resurgent type of thing. And yet, typically, as you say, Kyle Shanahan, more than anybody, puts linebackers in an absolute blender and has specifically targeted some of them down the years, et cetera, et cetera. So I was just curious how linebackers are grading this year versus the 49ers. You have JOK with an insane grade of 91 when they played the Browns. You've got three guys, Jordan Hicks, Christian Roseboom, and Logan Wilson with reasonable grades, and then everybody else still grading pretty badly.
Yeah,
so
that's what I looked up. I actually looked that up last night, and it was every team that had beaten them pretty much had at least one guy that was good there, right?
Yeah, and even guys that are pretty good linebackers or having reasonable seasons didn't have good games against the 49ers other than those guys we mentioned.
From a Jacksonville perspective, I think it's another game where you say, okay, how are they taking this next step as a team? They beat Buffalo back in Week 5. They lost to the Chiefs 17-9 back in Week 2. I think if you're an ascending Jags team that is taking the right steps, right? They kind of turned a corner midseason last year, made the playoffs, had a nice run there, lost to the Chiefs, who were just a better overall team, and went on to win the Super Bowl. But now the Jags, which games are they going to really be tested for the rest of the season? It's this game against the Niners. They have the Bengals in Week 13. I think it's a Thursday night game. They have Baltimore in Week 15. I mean, those are the games where the Jags are going to say, okay, are we the team that can actually make a Super Bowl run here?
Yeah.
So 6-2 Jacksonville team. This is a huge game, even though it's with an NFC team, just to prove their worth.
Yeah, it's a big game for them to really keep their run going and show that they, after struggling for a few weeks where their receivers weren't making plays for Trevor Lawrence, now everything is actually firing and the team looks good. So it's a big game for them against a legit opposition to show, yeah, we can do it. And then for San Francisco, it's huge because if they lose 4 in a row, I mean, that's bad.
The other thing to remember here that's very important, back in 1999, Week 1, Niners at Jags. Steve Young versus Mark Brunell. Mark Brunell against Mark Brunell Light. What a matchup.
Two lefties.
A couple lefties.
Don't get that
similar
matchup
styles.
very
Number 8, the whole thing. Steve Young trying to be the next Mark Brunell. Jags win 41-3.
41-3.
41-3. Huh. That was Steve Young went like 9 for 25. Got beat up physically and just emotionally, probably. It was a beatdown in the rain in Jacksonville.
Huh. In the rain.
In the rain.
Maybe Steve couldn't throw in the rain.
Yeah. I mean, it was the last year of his career, and he was perhaps concussed during that game. Dom Capers' defense.
I wonder if lefties, two lefties playing each other is like in boxing, where southpaws don't like fighting other southpaws because it doesn't come up that often.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very much the same thing. Anyway,
like Mike Vick's kryptonite would have been Kellen Moore.
Had to throw that out there. So the Niners are favored by 4 here in Jacksonville. The other Niners-Jags game that randomly comes to mind was when Jimmy G first got there in 2017, and the Jags had that awesome defense that year.
Right.
They had Jalen Ramsey. They were playing that Gus Bradley cover 3 scheme, and Shanahan went in there and they wrecked the Jags defense that year, as Shanahan seems to do against the Pete Carroll cover 3 tree.
Yeah, I mean, it's
no
really
relation to any of these, to this actual game this week, but
it's also, I mean, you just look at the line. People aren't writing off the 49ers yet. 3 bad losses in a row, or 2 bad losses and then a loss to make it 3 losses in a row. They're still favored by 3 against a team that has, one of the best records in the NFL and has a pretty good resume in terms of being a good NFL team. So nobody's jumping ship yet on this 49ers team. If they lose this one, maybe we start to see the line shifting significantly.
All right, what do you think, Sam? Niners by 3 here in Jacksonville.
I'm buying into the return of the important 49ers players. I think that makes them win and cover.
I'm buying into the 99 Jags. No, I'll take the Jags to cover the 3. I think this is a big prove-it game for them, for Trevor Lawrence. The defense that's played well. Give me the Jags to cover the 3 here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cue the dramatic music, if we have it.
We had some. I don't know if, well, we can't hear it, so we have no idea if it's
I have no
happening.
idea.
Yeah.
But we might have dramatic music. And then I'm going to say, it's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's the most revolutionary ball trimmer the world has ever seen. Gentlemen, our friends over at Manscaped have been working night and day to bring you a below-the-waist grooming experience like none other with their brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. We're talking a next-generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave your mind can imagine. AI is cool, but I think this might be the biggest technological advancement the world has ever seen. That's right. Upgrade your grooming game to the Ultrasphere this year by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code PFF. High tech for low places. That's Manscaped. Every man knows how scary it can get when going for a close shave below the belt. That's why we trust Manscaped for all our sensitive areas here on the PFF NFL podcast. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It's their fifth generation trimmer that features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. We also have dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3 length-setting combs, and then, of course, the trimmer's waterproof too, as they always are. No more wet shaving down there. Taking it on the go, Manscaped has you covered. This puppy comes with a travel case and even a travel lock feature to avoid any accidental powering and or weird looks in the airport. That is very important for when you're traveling. This right here is on the cutting edge of cutting pubes. That's right. Upgrade your ball trimmer and your life will follow. Our friends at Manscaped have done a great job writing copy once again. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code PFF at manscapes.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code PFF at manscapes.com. I can promise you've never seen a ball trimmer look like a spaceship. Get yours today from our folks over at Manscaped. There was another Seinfeld episode where they were debating things in life that have never improved. Like how many products they just stay the same. They've maxed out. And I could say honestly, Manscaped is not that product.
No.
We're at a 5.0 Ultra. We've been with them since the 1.0. They're at a 5.0 Ultra right now. We continuous growth. Neil would be proud.
Absolutely. Update from Philly Joe in the email mailbag. Steve is welcome whenever. Tell him to just leave that Shield stuff at home and wear green.
I could do that.
There you go.
I mean, that's the thing. When you root for the Shield, you could be any team fan, right? I could be a Bengals fan on Sunday night when I was there.
What the hell? Oh, this was Eli's thing?
What is this?
Eli attempted to make AI create a picture of you and your son watching football together.
What?
I think you should grow that mustache.
How much information goes? Like, how do they know there's that many TVs?
I don't know. They're all old TVs, by the way, as well. They're CRT things. Look.
Why are they in the background and not? Why am
That's
I looking
true.
away from the TV?
Yeah, that's not helping either. Hey, look, AI. This is.
Is that what Harry's going to look like?
You probably, yeah. These are like, when people are like, why don't you just trust AI, right? Because this is AI. You ask it for things, and this is what it produces.
Can we go back to that for a second? Because it feels like my facial hair is dependent on the time that you dressed up as me.
Yeah.
Which is no facial hair below the lip.
Correct.
But everywhere else above the lip.
Yes. So look, there are some problems with AI, right? And yet people want to leave it running the world.
Yeah. I look jacked, though. Got that going for me.
Yeah, that's a real win. I think you should grow that mustache. That looks good on fake you. AI you.
Look at you comparing Harry to J.C. Jackson and Malcolm Butler. Getting disciplinary action.
I'm just saying there's a trend now.
Now ask AI to show Harry not watching football last week because he got banned. Got banned from football. All right, where are we here? Last 1 o'clock game. Houston Texans at the Cincinnati Bengals. Bobby Slowick coming back home to Cincinnati. Bengals favored by 6.5. Is Bobby staying at your house or anything? You guys going to get together?
No, I offered up. I have spare rooms. I could have put up. I said I could put up 2 or 3 Texans players. 4 if we're including Tank Dell.
Yeah, I have a couple extra cribs that Tank could probably
You could
fit.
definitely fit several players in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in our group chat. You did kindly offer a place to stay for Bobby. I actually asked him if he could babysit Saturday night so I could go out.
That's true. He did. Yeah.
And he did not
reply.
Okay. Did not want to do that.
No.
Let's ask. Let's see when they're actually getting in. I'm going to text him. Talk about the game, Sam. While I'm. We always text Bobby live on the air here.
Yeah.
When do you get in?
I'm sure he loves that. I'm sure that's what he really loves. This is probably why he goes on Schefter rather than our show.
Can't believe he went on Schefter.
So, as I said, I don't know that there is a better football team right now than the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow looking 100% healthy, and that offense is absolutely cooking when he's 100% healthy. And then the other thing is, when everything was bad earlier in the year, it wasn't just the offense. Like, obviously that was the focus because of Burrow's calf, and, you know, they can't win if he's going to be like this all the way through the season. The defense wasn't playing like a Lou Anarumo defense earlier in the year either, and now it is. So now you got both sides of the ball playing really well. And as I said last week, I don't know that there's a team whose best punch is better than the Bengals' best punch. So the only risk really is, do they need their best punch against Houston, or do they think, let's exhale, right? The tough game was out of the way. We beat Buffalo. You know, we've got other tough games upcoming, but this one is a bit of a breather, and you end up overlooking Houston.
They have Baltimore. I mean, when the schedule first came out, I'm sure Bengals fans were thinking that.
Right.
Because they have the Ravens next Thursday night.
That's what I mean.
On the short week.
So it would be easy to say, we got a win against San Francisco. We got a win against Buffalo. Upcoming is a Thursday night game against Baltimore. This one should be easier.
I don't know. I always go back to, I think Zach Taylor gets these guys. They'll have some duds in there, here and there, but I mean, I think they're going to be focused here the rest of the season. I don't think they're going to overlook Houston, especially with all the hype now CJ Stroud is getting in this Texans offense and what they did last week against the Bucs. I don't think the Bengals are overlooking them at all. I think the question now is, in the second half of the season, 9 more games to go for Cincy, are they going to be able to keep the same level of play like they did last year and go into the playoffs looking like one of the best teams in the league, or maybe the best team in the league as they went in to the playoffs last year. So I love this matchup. It's another challenge for CJ Stroud. We know what Lou Anarumo's defense will do, which is generally change things up. And they've done, when Lou's in his bag, so to speak, it's that second half, right? We have the historical games of, we're going to rush 3 against Mahomes. We're going to see what they're doing and adjust. And so for our friend Bobby, and that matchup, right, going up against Lou Anarumo, who's going to make adjustments in the second half, that's going to be, whereas last week Houston went nuts in the second half against Tampa Bay to be able to keep pace. That's going to be a great matchup in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great test for Bobby, for CJ Stroud, for that offense generally. Anarumo's defense is going to disguise some things. They're going to change things up in the second half. They're going to come with a specific game plan for this offense, which has been doing so well. Like, it's a different test than it was last week, which they obviously absolutely sailed through. How does this offense do, and how does Stroud do against Lou Anarumo's defense?
The other thing, I saw Mina highlight it, that the Texans' run game, their run game has just been really ineffective this year. So if you're trying to make the case for how impressive Stroud's season is, having not only he's grading well, especially for a rookie, the production of the offense is at a high level despite the run game at this point. And a lot of times we know if you do make offenses one-dimensional, not by choice, right? I mean, like, some teams choose to just pass, and that's their thing. I mean, Houston wants to run the ball. They're not doing a great job of it, but they're still producing in the pass game. Probably another feather in the cap of the CJ Stroud narrative, if you look at it.
Yeah.
I think for Cincinnati, too, the thing we've highlighted the last few weeks, you said the defense was not good early on, because Mike Hilton was terrible, and DJ Reader wasn't doing the same stuff. All those players are playing at a high level now.
I wonder if Mike Hilton's splits are still very strange from left to right slot corner.
Yeah, why were you looking that up?
I don't remember.
Were you looking that up recently?
No, I did. I mean, I came across it. I don't remember how I got there, but it did show up. I haven't run it since to find out if he's like swung back towards normality or if he's still bizarrely insane off one side versus the other.
I ran into somebody last night who was a fan of the pod. Shout out.
Oh, yeah?
And Bengals fan who said, T. Higgins got hurt at practice today. And I didn't hear anything about it. So he was limited due to a hamstring. Was that new yesterday for T? Do you know? That was new. Okay. So we have a new hamstring injury for T. Higgins. Thank you, Eli. Coming off of his best game. And again, what we've been saying about the Bengals the last couple of years, why are they dangerous? Because obviously Burrow can be great. But we know Jamar Chase can win at any level of the field. But then when teams take him away, T. Higgins is probably the best 2, and he's borderline 1 for many teams in the NFL. And we finally saw that last week against the Bills. If Higgins ends up being limited, that's huge here. We also have Derek Stingley returning to practice for Houston. They have a massive, massive injury report. And I don't even know where to unpack 10 to 15 players who are questionable here. Some who have new injuries, like Will Anderson, knee injury, questionable. And you have a guy like Stingley who's designated to return, but we don't know when he'll be back.
Yep. You'll be happy to know that Mike Hilton's stats are now much closer left to right slot corner.
I was giving you so much time to add something about this game.
And really important information. You can no longer rely on him only being good coming off the left side of the offense.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're talking about it, but the Bengals defense, how do they match up with all the playmakers that Houston's dropping out there now? With Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and the great Noah Brown.
Great Noah Brown.
And Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz, yeah.
Yeah. I would also say Houston's offensive line that we've been so impressed with, that doesn't make sense, right? With all the injuries that they've had, with some of the players that they've had there besides Laramie Tunsil, with a little track record of success, holding up extremely well. I mean, that's, can they do it against this Bengals front, which has the potential, has Trey Hendrickson there. Hendrickson versus Laramie Tunsil, one of the best matchups you'll see this week as well in the NFL.
No, absolutely. That'll be a fun one. This is a big line, 6.5 points for the Bengals, who, I think they're playing as well as anybody in the league right now. But Houston has not been losing games, and they've been putting up a ton of points. Going to go with Houston.
They have been. I wanted Houston originally. The injury report kind of scares me. They have a lot of guys banged up for the Texans. But Bobby's coming home. Used to live in Cincy with us. He's over here.
He was all over on the west side, though.
I'm a West Sider now. Not living-wise, but I hang out over there now.
Huh.
Out west. It's my spot. So I'll take Houston as well for Bob. So I picked against him last week out of spite.
Out of spite, yeah.
But and I did win because they didn't kick the extra point. So I got it. But I'll pick Houston for the homecoming. I think the Bengals win, though. Burrow, the highest graded QB in the NFL over the last 3 weeks. And I think we've seen that on the field. If he continues that, Bengals are going to be real tough to beat going forward.
Okay.
All right, let's get to the 4 o'clock games. Detroit Lions at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Lions favored by 3 here at the Chargers. Chargers up to 4-4 now. Starting to believe again.
Did you see, so speaking of injury reports, the Chargers had an injury report that featured one name.
Our guy?
It doesn't matter who it was. The point being,
Oh, that's it?
They had one person on the injury report, the Los Angeles Chargers, of cursed injury luck. At this point in the season, it's usually half the rosters on the injury report, and the rest of them were injured.
Does that mean they're poised to be dangerous?
Yeah.
Everyone who jumped off the bandwagon when they were 2-4, they're coming back.
Now's the time.
Is there room back on the bandwagon for the Chargers? Maybe not against the Lions, man. We'll see. Lions coming off a bye after getting whooped by the Ravens.
Yeah.
Will they bounce back here?
That was a bad.
The Lions, they're another team with pretty steep home road splits. Jared Goff's home road splits in particular, from a pass game perspective, it doesn't mean it's impossible to win on the road. But the road games that they've won, they beat Kansas City week 1, 21-20, beat the Packers 31-20, beat the Bucs 20-6, and then got whooped by the Ravens. Those are the road games for the Lions so far.
Mm-hmm. Aiden Hutchinson going up against the right side of that Chargers offensive line feels like a win for Hutchinson and the Lions. Justin Herbert is ranked 14th in PFF grade this season. There have been signs that there's some positive things coming from the Herbert Kellen Moore combination, but it's not doing what it should do, right? It's not improving everything. Herbert in particular has been missing a lot of throws. He hasn't been playing as well. His turnover-worthy play rate that we were asking to kind of go up as a proxy to make his game more aggressive and better overall, it's gone up, but the other things haven't really improved. So actually what we've done is just make Justin Herbert worse since Kellen Moore came in.
For some perspective there, he's pretty much doubled his turnover-worthy play rate, Herbert.
Yeah.
and his big-time throw rate has gone up 0.5%. Since last year. It's actually below his first 2 seasons. So you're not getting the big-time throws.
I mean, he has 1 fewer turnover-worthy play than he had all of 2021 and 2 fewer than he had last season when he had a broken rib for half.
That's the other
broken rib cartilage.
Now, we also know, look, big-time, it's an isolate the quarterback type of stat. We try to isolate the quarterback as much as we can when it comes to PFF grading. Of course, that's the goal. But we know how much big-time throws also come down to some opportunities and having those receivers. And without Mike Williams, they still don't really have that deep threat. Quentin Johnston's one of the lowest yards per route run figures in the NFL right now. He's not become a downfield threat. We know Keenan Allen's not going to do much beyond 10 or 12 yards. That's his range. That's where he's awesome. Other than, open wheel routes, which apparently Justin Herbert has the yips throwing. They don't have a great downfield threat. I'm interested in Darius Davis. He had the punt return for a touchdown the other night. They'll give him some gimmick plays. He's one of those guys he's an electric playmaker. He could be my next Deontay Hardy, Khalif Raymond type that I'm like, I'll throw Darius Davis a couple deep balls a game. But honestly, just to get something going down the field so it's not just Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett, I think the Chargers need to try to tap into that because they don't have great downfield options right now.
Yeah, I think they need to. They need Quentin Johnston at this point, right? So I think it's time for them to actually start scheming for Quentin Johnston as opposed to just putting him out there as part of the play and say, run, this is your role in this play, run it, and if the ball comes your way, make the most of it. Let's start saying, we actually need this guy to be a bigger part of the offense. We're going to have to start dialing some things up specifically for Quentin Johnston because, he has played a lot. Keenan Allen has 350-ish passing play snaps. Joshua Palmer's got 250-ish, and then Quentin Johnston's next with 179. He's playing a lot. The ball is not coming his way because, in part, they're not designing anything for him to be open, right? It's just, this is your role in this offense. You're running a specific receiver pattern and just make the most of it. I think it's time for them to start saying, we know what Keenan Allen can do. He will function in any role within this offense. Nobody else is really bringing an awful lot, so let's start scheming some stuff up for Quentin Johnston and try and get him the ball in areas that he can do well in.
You'll be surprised to learn that I made another mistake.
Oh, God.
The Lions' last game was not against the Ravens. It's the last game that stood out in my head, but it was they got Josh McDaniels fired on Monday Night Football.
They did.
In Week 8, beat the Raiders. That was their last game before the bye. So I apologize again to our listeners for lying, basically.
For lying, yeah.
Yeah, I lied. Mistruths.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I told. So yeah, the Lions did bounce back pretty well after that disappointment with the Ravens. They bounced back after a heartbreaker against the Seahawks in Week 2. Went on a bit of a stretch. So I think the Lions are still really good overall. I think their offensive line against this Chargers pass rush, man, the Chargers pass rush has been so hit or miss this year, and it really feels like a lot of teams only beat up on bad offensive lines. It feels like it's kind of extreme for the Chargers, right? They're sacking Zach Wilson like crazy the other night.
Yeah.
But that's what they've done. They did it against the Raiders when it was Aiden O'Connell. All of their best pass rush games have been against the Titans, the Raiders with O'Connell, and the Jets with Zach Wilson. And other than that, that's pretty much it. So I don't really trust the Chargers rushing the passer against this Detroit team, and I think Goff will have some success here.
Well, yeah, it's a big kind of test, I think, for Joey Bosa, who hasn't been Joey Bosa generally this season, but he has been the last couple of weeks against some bad players. So is Joey Bosa actually back, or did Joey Bosa just run up against a couple of favorable matchups and therefore looks back? That, I think, is a factor for them. Overall, I think their pass rush isn't bad. Khalil Mack has looked more like Khalil Mack this year. Again,
since the O'Connell game.
Right, again, factoring in the favorable matchups. Joey Bosa looks like he's on the way back. The rookie, Tuli Pelotu, has looked pretty good
he's
as
been
a rookie.
Good.
So it's not bad, but I think it's a fair point that we don't know yet how much of that is just a product of running up against bad opposition.
Oh, I'm torn on this one. This is one of my favorite games. I'm still a believer in the Chargers.
Okay.
I'm back to believing in the Chargers, but maybe not this week. No, I am. Give me the Chargers. Getting 3. They're
going
back.
With Detroit.
Chargers are back.
I'm, in fact, not a believer in the Chargers.
I'm a believer in the Chargers for some reason against the Lions. Speaking of back, Kyler's back.
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals hosting the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons favored by 1.5. Kyler Murray back playing football for the Cardinals.
Baby.
The big football.
Yeah. That's bad. That picture was terrible.
There's a few things in life that you really like to focus on. Billionaires and size mismatches in pictures.
Yeah.
Right? Bryce Young podium jokes. Wemby, whenever he's around.
Any picture with Wemby.
Any Wemby picture that makes people look super small.
Which is all of them.
Me holding cups at Starbucks that are, espresso size and it looks ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
Andre
really
the Giant holding a beer can.
Uh-huh.
You love that stuff.
All of them.
And the
Can't
Cardinals
get enough of
posted the picture of Kyler being back with the perspective, it looked like a little kid's hand holding a big, huge. It looked like it was photoshopped to make the ball twice as big.
There's a picture out there like a meme picture where Kyler Murray looks like a tiny little munchkin. He's holding a giant football. You know what I mean? It's like been scaled that way, right? This was not one of those, but it kind of looked of the same variety of the ilk.
Yeah,
it's like if you were the Cardinals, the PR staff or whoever it is that deals with these kinds of things, there should be sort of blanket policy of, hey guys, I know this is the standard photograph that we take with all quarterbacks or all players. It's just a cookie cutter template that we do without thinking about it. Somebody needs to have eyes on these every single photograph because Kyler Murray is itty bitty. You just need somebody run your eyes over and just check the football doesn't look like it's twice the size it should. Look at this picture. It's ridiculous. Somebody should just take a look at that. Just somebody. Every time we take a photograph of Kyler,
Can we get a better angle?
can we get one person to have a look at it and go, dude, why is the ball that big? And if it is, let's adjust his arm angle or let's try and play with perspective a little bit to make it look like the ball is normal sized. That's all I'm asking. And yet apparently that doesn't happen. They just take the photograph like normal and they wait until it goes out on social media for the rest of the world to point out that the ball looks like it's twice the size it should be.
That's our analysis on the game.
For the moment, yeah.
It's just funny. So we know Arizona's not a great team,
Correct.
but they were very competitive with the great Josh Dobbs running the show. What are they going to look like with Kyler? This is Kyler's first time not running a pure air raid system.
Well,
in the NFL.
A variety of air raid anyway.
Yeah, sorry, not pure. A variety of the air raid system.
Right.
We know that Arizona also had Josh Dobbs running quite a bit. They would lean into that. They had some nice trickeration early in the season with Rondell Moore in the backfield and everything. I feel like Arizona doesn't look nearly as bad on paper with Kyler Murray back under center, and he can do some damage here.
That's the thing. I mean, this could be. It's fascinating whatever happens because Kyler Murray, coming back is going to be good to watch for both us and them. But I think we have a pretty broad range of outcomes here. Number one is going to be, okay, he's back. They've been very conservative with his timeline. They haven't rushed him back. They've given him all the time he needs. Does that mean that you're willing to say he is 100%? We are going balls to the wall right out of the gate, and Kyler's going to be running the ball. They're going to have him as a part of the design run game. He's going to be scrambling constantly. Are we getting full Kyler Murray? Or are we saying, hey, how about we ease back into this game stuff and you just stay in the pocket and get rid of the football?
Offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, quote, expects, I'll quote the headline on NFL.com, quote of the headline, expects QB Kyler Murray to run like he normally does in return.
Well, there we go. That's one element we will see. Number two is, before the final season that got everybody canned in Arizona, Kyler Murray's career was looking very good, right? He started off looking pretty good. He took a big step forward year 2. He took an even bigger step forward year 3. And that year, he led the NFL in big-time throw rate. He had a PFF passing grade of 86.7, sorry. He was a big factor in the run game. Like, Kyler Murray was starting to look like the next great quarterback. And then the following season, the offense hadn't progressed. Everything went bad. Kyler was playing bad. There was all the talk about the Call of Duty stuff. Like, everything went to hell, right? And then he gets hurt, and it's a complete nightmare. But if you basically pretend that 2022 didn't exist, and you're like, hey, we get this guy back, I mean, that's really exciting for a team like Arizona, who have shown that, sure, it's a bad roster, and there's not that much talent across the board, but they were still competitive without any of that. And Kyler comes back. I mean, this could be a jackpot for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you highlighted it well. That 2021 season, the biggest question mark was also in that playoff game. They lose to the Rams, and it was like, oh, can Kyler elevate a team? Does he take it seriously enough? And then it got, blown way out of proportion, or maybe it didn't. But with the Call of Duty, and dude likes to play video games and not study his playbook, we're going to put some restrictions into his contract. But yeah, Kyler Murray's numbers last year looked nothing like his previous few years. Even just 6.1 yards per attempt. I mean, that offense was struggling last year to do anything explosive, and it was like week after week. I remember last year on the podcast doing this, reading his yards per attempt every single week. There was like no outliers. 5.7, 5.7, 5.4, 6.5, 6, 6, 7, 7.4. Like, there was nothing good. There was no game where this offense just kind of figured it out and went off. And that's why Cliff Kingsbury got fired.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, I'm curious to see what Kyler looks like in a new offense. We also saw them kind of, the running thing, lean into it sometimes, other times get away from it. So I'm curious to know what that looks like for Arizona. Mm-hmm. It also makes Arizona far less likely to get the number 1 overall pick now with Kyler back. At least that I still don't think it's a great roster. Defense has so many holes.
I mean, it certainly, it makes it. You can't look at this and say they are more likely to get the number 1 pick now than they were before he got back there.
They snuck a quick loss in before Kyler came back with the Clayton Tune game last week. On the other side, do you have any other insights off Arthur Smith's press conference?
I have no insights whatsoever off Arthur Smith's press conference. There was 5 minutes of gibberish that was explaining why Bijan wasn't getting the ball in the red zone, which did not explain why Bijan was not getting the ball in the red zone, and seemed to focus largely on the fact that they were only 50% in touchdown conversion rate in the red zone, which is not where you want to be. You want to be at 100% in the red zone. So everything we do is striving to hit 100%, not 50%. And sometimes you're going to call some plays, and it's going to get taken away by the defense. And it was just bullshit for 5 minutes. Like,
you said you had no takeaways. That was good.
That was my only takeaway.
You got Drake London back this week, hopefully.
Yeah.
Again, when they're locked and loaded from a playmaker standpoint, they're capable. Taylor Heineke back under center. Bijan has definitely cooled off both from opportunity and production over these last few weeks, but Atlanta's still a good all-around team, hitting a bit of a lull here. I do like Atlanta as a team. I like their run defense. David Onyemata, what he's done, Calais Campbell, all those guys that they've added on the defensive side of the ball. But I'm intrigued by Kyler as an underdog here this week. I think he elevates this Arizona team that's played hard all year. So, that'll be a good one too. What if Arizona is not competitive with Kyler Murray coming back after they were with Dobbs? They just like Dobbs more.
Well, that would be bad for them. Other than the fact that if they're even worse somehow with Kyler Murray, they are definitely on the way to the number 1 overall pick then.
Give me the Cardinals getting 1.5 here at home.
Yeah, okay. I'll buy that. For a game. I'm going to see I'll buy into the Kyler Murray thing for a game and then maybe completely reverse my opinion after that game.
Yeah, okay. Am I in the right spot here? There we go. Washington Commanders at the Seattle Seahawks. 4 more games to go here in 20 minutes. Commanders at Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 6. Somebody do some research. Have the Seahawks ever covered a 6-point spread?
Somebody do some research.
Someone do some research for me. Can we get the crack research team going here?
It's this podcast in a nutshell. Somebody do some research ever once.
Somebody look up some numbers for me on Seattle. There's no way they've covered a 6-point spread. We just did this a couple of weeks ago. I can look it up in the spreadsheet here. Talk about the game. No one bets against Sam Howell as a 6-point dog on the road. No one does that.
Certainly not twice.
Not twice. Can't do that twice. So Seattle did not cover 3.5 against the Browns at home.
God, stop. We can't. No. This cannot be the show.
They did cover 7.5 against Arizona a couple weeks back. I have every game in here.
Great.
Did they play that week?
So
Certainly didn't cover against the Bengals.
Sam Howell, being the most interesting quarterback in the world, actually wasn't sacked that many times last time he played. Yeah.
Seattle was 6-point favorites against Carolina in the Dalton game, and they didn't cover that.
So the last two games that Sam Howell's played, right, which is Philadelphia and New England, two teams that you would think that's a massive concern, sacks, for a guy that's averaging like 6 a game. 1 sack against the Philadelphia Eagles and 3 sacks against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, he's getting better.
Well, he certainly has in those 2 games, which would be 2 games that you would expect to have very high sack numbers attached to them. Does that actually represent a shift in Sam Howell, or did we simply get 2 games where he didn't get sacked a lot where he should have been? Seattle, they're not as incompetent at rushing the passer as they once were, but it's a much more favorable matchup than the last 2. Like, if we have another game where Sam Howell's only sacked once, twice, now we've got something going here.
Seattle's another team where if you just look at the pass rush grades and even the sack totals, their best pass rush grades came in weeks 3 and 4 against Carolina and the Giants, who we just highlighted on the show. I mean, they're both bottom 3 offensive lines. The Giants are in a different stratosphere when it comes to that. Seattle's another defensive line that, I think they've improved a ton on the line, but they had a game like last week where they were pretty much shut down other than Boye Mafe and one play by Leonard Williams. So I don't know if they're going to – if this was 3 weeks ago, I said this could be one of those weeks where Seattle's defensive line at least looks good because they'll get to Sam Howell, they'll get their 5 or 6 sacks, and it'll be like, hey, Seattle, their pass rush has done this a few times this year. But Howell's getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker. And the other thing about Howell, we're 10 starts into his career.
Right.
10 starts into his career. Theoretically, I know I always say not everybody just gets better every week. It's not Madden. And I'm not saying that about Howell. But if there's one thing that could improve, it's just getting rid of the ball on time. And where does Sam Howell need to improve? Just throwing the ball on time, not running into defensive tackles when they're being blocked. He was doing that so much earlier this year, which is why we said it's not just the offensive line. It's mostly Howell when it comes to the sack totals. The last 2 weeks have looked much better for Sam Howell throwing the ball on time and protecting himself a lot better.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think he can improve at that. Like, it's not – he was so extreme that it would be wild if that was his – like, that's where he's going to be forever. Now, the question is how much can he improve? Because it's not like we're only working on NFL evidence here. We saw this in his college career. It is a feature of his game that's probably always going to be a feature of his game, at least relative to other quarterbacks. But if he can move the line – and head back towards normality relative to other quarterbacks, that's a huge thing for them because he is throwing the ball pretty well. I mean, basically 6% big-time throw rate, that's high. That's amongst the better quarterbacks in the NFL over a given season. 3.4% turnover-worthy play rate is not egregious. I mean, that's where Justin Herbert is this year with his double play rate. So that's fine. That's like middle of the pack. We're high-end in big-time throws. His sort of average, completion rate, adjusted completion rate, these kinds of things, these are good. If we can eliminate just a portion of the sacks we're taking, that's one of the sort of strongest levers he can pull in terms of moving his overall production.
In addition to when we saw him make a nice throw to Jahan Dotson last week, Dotson's going to be questionable for this game, as is Curtis Samuel. But that group with Terry McLaurin, at the top, decent group of receivers to throw to, and I think Howell gets the most out of that group. Other side, Emmanuel Forbes watch for Washington. Had a nice week last week against New England. Got to match up against a fellow skinny receiver like Tyquan Thornton.
Fellow
skinny guy like Thornton. This week, though, because you're big into this stuff, what happens when Emmanuel Forbes runs into DK, potentially?
Yikes.
Because we know Forbes struggled with DK's college teammate A.J. Brown this season.
If they let that happen, somebody needs to get fired.
Just keep an eye on it. Like,
there are mistakes that are made that are so bad that people should lose their jobs for them immediately. If Emmanuel Forbes is covering DK Metcalf and not Tyler Lockett, what are we even doing here? Like, we're just setting the kid up for failure if that's happening.
Commanders' 7th lowest EPA per play allowed in the pass game. Could be a nice Geno Smith bounce back here with DK, with Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba's emergence. Washington also has these weird Jack Del Rio splits throughout his career where they seem to get better in the second half of the season. That year where they were good defensively in 2020, I believe it was. They started out horrible and then got better. It's kind of been a trend, so I don't know how much to lean into this or if Washington has actually turned a corner after a good week last week against New England, but something to keep an eye on there. They have not been great so far this season, and Geno Smith overall playing pretty well. Still has to cut down on those turnover-worthy plays, though.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going in this one? Seattle by 6.
Washington.
Yeah, same.
Easy.
In Seattle, give me Washington by 6. To cover the 6. Giants at Cowboys. We get 3 minutes on this game.
Tommy DeVito.
Cowboys by 16.5.
16.5. The best pass rush in the NFL against the worst offensive line in the NFL, and Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Probably sums up.
He looked better in a low leverage relief appearance last week against the Raiders.
Yeah. Probably sums up the game, though. Like, just that. If you knew nothing else.
Yeah.
Best pass rush, worst line, Tommy DeVito. How's it going? Yeah, 16.5. It makes sense. I get
Dallas's way.
Yeah.
Dallas is also, I mean, they're hot. They and they eat these games up usually. It's not just they're 16.5 because it's Dallas, but Dallas, they dominate bad teams.
Yeah.
That's what they've done the last couple of years for the most part.
I mean, I would be, I don't have time to run this live, but what does their pass rush look like specifically against not good teams? I would imagine it's insane. I
can go at least game by game here. Dallas's pass rush. Well, against the Giants, we had an 88. We know that they sacked Daniel Jones like 900 times.
Yeah.
Jets, 78. I mean, is it dark green? Dark green against the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, who were shuffling their offensive line at the time. Mm-hmm. They even had a really good pass rush against the Niners, 81.7. Against the Chargers. Like the only games under 70 were kind of random, though. Cardinals, when they lost. So I shouldn't say that Dallas doesn't always beat up on bad teams. Sometimes they lose.
Well, that Cardinals game was the one that might be the single most unexplainable game in the NFL season this year.
And those exist every year. Like the Colts who fired their head coach for Jeff Saturday before they fired Frank Reich, beat the Super Bowl champion Chiefs last year. So those games do happen. But the 2 games where the Cowboys pass rush grade was under 70 was the Cardinals and the Rams. And they beat the Rams 43-20. Didn't the grade was probably them like
either way
relaxing in the second half.
There's not much to this game other than it would be a miracle if the Giants don't get murdered.
Dak Prescott too. He's got 2 horrendous games, which was their first 2 losses, which was Arizona and the Niners game. Since that point, though, he's played great. I mean, Dak has been a little streaky this year, but he's on a good streak. And just not missing a ton of throws these last couple of weeks. And he did it last week. I think I mentioned on the show, I thought it was a good matchup for him against Philly. He tends to play well against that type of defense. But he's on a bit of a run here. And so that's something. He didn't have to do much in week 1 against the Giants. If there's something that's going to keep it close, though, the Giants, aggressive D, if they do get one of those Dexter Lawrence games to just, implode the middle of the defense, it would be the Giants defense, which has played better overall over the last few weeks, even though they didn't do great last week against the Raiders.
They would need something like that. I mean, Dak Prescott, even against sometimes that the blitz-heavy type of defense just creates that variance, but like Dak Prescott's been consistently good against the blitz in his NFL career. It's not even like an area of potential weakness. It would require like we introduce variance. Like we're going to blitz like crap. Right. Usually Dak Prescott does well against the blitz, but on any given play, something crazy can happen, and maybe we change that narrative in this one small sample size iteration. But like, there's no evidence that says even that is going to affect this game.
I don't think this is a record line. I mean, we've seen lines up at 20, 21, haven't we, before?
Yeah, I don't think it's a record, but it's pretty.
The 07 Patriots hit this point where they were like 3 touchdown favorites, I think, pretty consistently. And then they wouldn't cover that because that's a ridiculous number. But okay, 16.5 here for Dallas.
I think I'm gonna get them to cover even with 16.5.
I'm gonna take Dallas. I mean, I think I took Dallas against Arizona back when they lost by 14.
Right.
So, yeah, weird stuff happens. It's the NFL. But, yeah, give me the Cowboys to cover the big number. Jets at Raiders. We're on to Sunday Night Football here. Jets favored by 1 in Vegas. Antonio Pierce's second game here. 1-0.
That line's gone up to 17 now, by the way.
Yeah, see? People know.
I'm moving it to 17 in the document. Do you still want it at 17?
I'll take it at 17, yeah. No. You know what? That's the tipping point. No, I'll take Dallas.
Nobody beats Tommy DeVito by 17 points.
Twice.
16, sure. 17, no.
Listen, Tommy DeVito's got some mad. He led a comeback without completing a pass. Who else can say that?
True.
Against the Jets.
And his interception, did he have 2 interceptions? One of his interceptions wasn't his fault.
I'm just saying the Jets game.
I know, but yes, last week.
Yeah.
Like he had an interception that hit his receiver in the hands. That's not on him.
It's not on him. Jets favored by 1 at the Raiders here, Sunday Night Football. Aiden O'Connell versus Zach Wilson.
Wow. Yeah.
Aiden played a pretty clean game last week against the Giants.
He did. I mean, look, Aiden O'Connell was the best rookie quarterback in preseason and one of the best quarterbacks in preseason. Now, the more you do this, the more you understand that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But he's had a couple of starts now, and the first one, he just took 1,000,000 sacks and was just late on everything. The process was too slow. But he didn't actually play terribly with the ball in his hands in terms of throwing it. And then last week, you got rid of all the negatives. The sacks didn't happen, and he still looks like he can throw the ball pretty well. So he was an intriguing prospect because his good tape at Purdue was really good. It's just that the bad tape was catastrophic. I mean, if he has games where somehow bad Aiden O'Connell doesn't rush to the surface, he can work. And actually, he's probably the better quarterback than Zach Wilson.
I'm looking up the QB passing grades against the Jets this year. Did this a few weeks ago.
They'll be bad. Yeah, that's the problem.
I was shocked actually because I never actually checked Justin Herbert's grade from the other night. He's got the highest passing grade against the Jets this year.
That's like 60-something?
Yeah, 67. Dak at 66.7, which was both of those guys. It was a lot of dink and dunk here.
Yeah.
Herbert 6.2 average depth of target. Dak a 5.5 average depth of target. Jalen Hurts with a 65 grade is third. He had that game. He had 3 turnover-worthy plays, but he also had some big-time throws in there. And then Mac Jones 57, Josh Allen 52, Patrick Mahomes 48, Tyrod and DeVito together in the 40s, and Russell Wilson 43. So as of a few weeks ago, this was the lowest grade of the season for Mac Jones, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson. I think some of that's changed, but either way, that's my concern for Aiden O'Connell. And the Raiders' passing attack is going up against the Jets. And then the question is, now here's the funny part. If I took Zach Wilson's grades every single week and compared them to all of the quarterbacks against the Jets' defense, it's like the same distribution, where Zach Wilson has 3 games in the 50s and 60s, and everything else is below.
Yeah, that's not great.
So Zach Wilson is every quarterback against the Jets, and then the Jets make every quarterback look like they're playing the Jets, which is why they're 4-4. Got all that?
Pretty much. I mean, the Jets' defense is really good, and their pass rush is crazy good. So we said before, Dallas has the best pass rush in the NFL. That's true. The Jets, though, blitz less than almost anybody else. Only the Colts blitz less often than the Jets. So they have one of the best pass rushes in the league. They're like top 5, 6. And they do it with 4.
Yeah.
Like maximum 4. Sometimes they're doing it with 3. That's what makes that defense so special, is that they're able to get as much pressure as almost any team in the league without having to send extra blockers at all. And that's where you're going to end up with problems if you're Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders offense.
They're rolling 8 deep, man. I mean, Jermaine Johnson's breaking out here in year 2. Bryce Huff has been outstanding. Quinnen Williams has the 90 grade. Did you get to see Robert Saleh's little blurb, which sounded a lot like what we talked about yesterday on the podcast? But he gave the whole blurb, the whole, sacks are overrated. Quinnen's a disruptor. Same thing we said on the podcast yesterday.
PFF grade references and all.
PFF grade references and everything. So, yeah, the Jets, that's my that'd be my concern here for Aiden O'Connell.
And
the
he
Raiders.
was one of the points he was making. I haven't checked him on this. Was teams are going out of their way to take away Quinnen Williams and get extra hands on him, get more bodies on him, get multiple blockers on him at all times, which is one of the reasons that Bryce Huff's pressure rate hasn't come down, which is one of the reasons that Jermaine Johnson's pressure rate has spiked from last year. Like Jermaine Johnson was averaging had like an 11% pass rush win rate last season. This year, it's at like 24 or 25% or something. Like it's more than doubled what it was a year ago. Part of that is going to be down to Quinnen Williams and the attention that he is drawing and the fact that teams are specifically going out of their way to try and stop him ruining games. And Salah was making the point that essentially he's cool with that. Like, we're doing some things to try and free him up, but if teams have decided we are going to take him away, we are going to dedicate the extra bodies to him, cool. That just means other guys are going to have big days.
So then it becomes, I really think the Jets defense is gonna keep the scoring down. Can Zach Wilson do just enough? And like, what are Zach Wilson's problems at quarterback? The very first throw the other night, just airmails an open throw. And Aikman's funny. He's like, man, this is a gimme. These are the ones you got to hit.
Dude,
hearing former quarterbacks watch.
The NFL commentariat is disgusted with Zach Wilson. They hate him. Aikman's busy lighting him up on the broadcast. Manning visibly cringes every time Zach Wilson drops back to pass. And then when he does something, he's like walking through step by step why it's terrible. It's like they hate watching this guy.
But there's a few plays a game. We make a few plays outside the pocket, give Garrett Wilson a chance. Garrett Wilson is special. And again, the only excuse I'll make for Zach Wilson is the pass blocking is horrendous.
It's bad
by the Jets. And you'll have Max Crosby, probably dominating with 7, 8, 9 pressures in this game. Wilson also invites a ton of pressure. He doesn't work quickly through his progressions whatsoever.
Yeah.
So we're looking at like a 12-9 type of game here.
Manning gave some sort of interesting glimpses, though, into exactly why Wilson is bad. And it's not just, bad decisions, poor accuracy. It's like he doesn't have some of the stuff that goes down as intangibles, but actually is smart quarterback play and understanding how the position works, And he's like, he gave one example of how he's way too quick to hit his check down guy, right? And sometimes you're going to need to hit your check down guy, but his point was you can't do it too early in the play because the check down only gains yardage if you let the defense
you have to let the deep
expand,
routes.
I think was the term he was using, right? So if you drop back, don't like you've seen quickly, which is a good thing, right? I've read the sort of primary option is not going to be open on this play because the play call isn't going to work the way they've lined up in coverage. Like, I've diagnosed post-snap quickly that number one is not going to work and number two might not work either. I'm going to need to go to the check down. Like, on the one hand, that's good, that's smart quarterback play, but Manning's point is at that point you need to have the discipline and the understanding to wait a while because you need to let the defense expand and move away from the check down guy so that he's not just getting murdered the second you get him the ball and it doesn't go anywhere. He's like, you've done step one, step two is good, and step three isn't there, and so the play's dead. It didn't matter, like the stuff you did beforehand mentally.
You see Mahomes do something like that on his scrambles where he knows it's 3rd and 15 or whatever. He's like, he can read the defense. He knows he's going to scramble. He's got to let the play develop a little bit longer before he takes off, though,
right?
So he has more room. But you know why do you know why people are saying Zach Wilson improved? Is because last year, in the previous year, he wouldn't even hit the check down. He wouldn't even hit the check down. He would roll right and just hang out by the sideline and hope that he found a play down the field. That's why when people say, hey, there's seeing some improvement from Zach Wilson, it's because when he does actually hit a check down, last year that was like a throwaway or maybe an interception because, he was rolling out and just kind of chucking it up there. So that's probably what Robert Saleh is seeing. Now, it's not enough of an improvement that it's good quarterback play yet, but it's baby steps, Sam, for Zach Wilson.
I mean, if this is the arc, though, like, sure, there are baby steps, but if this is the pace we're moving at, it's going to be 2026 before he's ready to play.
Buy low, baby. Buy low. All right, man. It's pick time. Jets by 1 in Vegas.
Damn damn, I wanted to pick the Raiders. And then the more I think about it, the more I just don't like Aiden O'Connell against that pass rush. And I can't see him thriving.
The Jets are that defense
Now,
that...
Max Crosby could ruin the whole game for the Jets by himself.
That's true. But the Jets are that team that if your quarterback just played the Jets, you're like, man, what's wrong with my guy? What's wrong with Mahomes? What's wrong with Josh Allen? What's wrong with Jalen Hurts? What's wrong with every single quarterback that just played the Jets?
For the first time this year, I am going to deploy the coin flipper.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I did a whole strategy around that last year, but it didn't work.
No, well, it didn't make it worse
One
either,
week.
though. Put it that way. Okay, heads, Jets, tails, Raiders.
Heads, Jets.
Flipping, tails, Raiders. Damn it. Didn't want to go there, but okay.
Did tweet the other day.
The coin has spoken.
Oh, remember the Phil Luckett screwing up the coin toss play? That was amazing.
Yeah. Look, it's a hard thing to get right.
Thanksgiving 1998. What a day that was.
The coin has spoken.
Screwing up the coin toss. Randy Moss going crazy. 3 catches, buck 63, whatever it was, 3 scores. What a day. Thanksgiving in 98. So you're taking the Raiders per the coin toss.
Yes.
All right. Denver Broncos at the Buffalo Bills to wrap this up. Little
hang on.
Elway versus Jim Kelly. What?
Benjamin has finally come good with your information.
Oh, okay. So we have our live fact checkers of Robert Saleh. I have 7 messages. We have 7 messages from Ben.
Yeah, well, he's doing that thing where he's going to give you the information, but piecemeal.
Yeah. Okay. I don't care about Javon Kinlaw or Justin Madubuike.
Okay.
He's 20th highest rate for defensive interior with 50-plus rushers after week 8.
But he can't see another 3-tech.
But there's not another 3-tech as high. So for 3-techs, that's probably...
Yeah. So essentially, he's got 62% of as a double team rate, and we can't see another 3-tech that's higher. So
he's in Aaron Donald range for double teams.
We can confirm live on the show that Robert Saleh is correct when he is saying that Quinnen Williams is drawing an awful lot of extra attention.
I also like the way Saleh said it. It's very coach speak. They're trying to get 4 hands on him.
4 hands.
Trying to get 4 hands.
4 hands, got to have him.
On Quinnen Williams. Not 3, 4 hands.
That could be a triple team.
Could be a triple team.
I mean, technically, it
could
could
have
be
double 1 hands.
Could be a quadruple team.
Could be. It's a lot of hands.
But you could have, center with 2, and then each guard with 1.
Yeah.
Triple team.
And that's why Bryce Huff eats. Jermaine Johnson eats off the edge. Like
More
this.
Realistically, it's probably a double team, though.
It's probably a double team. As I was saying, Broncos, Bills. Bills by 7.5 here. It's Monday Night Football. Bills down to 5-4 for their record. Panic now in Buffalo.
Panic.
Against the Broncos. They're coming off a bye, I believe. Don't fact check me on that.
No, just stop fact checking.
But they're 3-5 with 2 straight wins.
They are.
Because if you're into winning streaks, every AFC West team has won their last game or 2 per the standings. Every AFC team in the East, every AFC East team lost last week. I said AFC West. The West teams all won. The East all lost. Is that trend going to continue here on Monday Night Football?
So what is the other trend that we need to mention at some point? You, as Nostradamus over there, made this statement that Denver's defense on this historically terrible pace could not possibly continue at their rate it was.
Nailed it.
Is it which week do we give them the credit for the turnaround? Was it the Jets
probably
game?
3 weeks.
No, the Jets put up 30, so it's the Chiefs, right? Since week 6 on?
I mean, honestly, 2 of their last 3 games came against the Chiefs.
Right.
Since the Chiefs, they've turned life around.
But it's how incredibly they've turned it around is the thing, right? Depending on the number you look at, they were literally dead ass last before those games, and they've jumped to like first in some numbers.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Here's how they are still lowest EPA per play, say, against the pass. I'll get the whole number.
Okay, but they are 7th, I think, overall in EPA per play since week 6.
So there you go. Against the pass, they're still worst, but they're 8th best in the last 3 weeks. That's how bad they were early on.
Yeah, it's unbelievably bad.
Let's check the whole defense here.
Well, up until that Chiefs game, they were by far the worst defense in the NFL in EPA per play. So they've gone from 32nd by a mile to 8th.
Like double the next worst team.
Right.
At one point. So let's see. EPA per play. Are they that high? Where are they the last couple weeks?
They are 8th since week 6.
You're right. And so where were they?
Last.
And then on the season, they're still last, right?
Probably.
That just shows how bad they were
Yeah.
for that time. But I said they can't be that bad. Like, my analysis was simply a mean regression. They can't be that bad.
Correct.
And even against the Chiefs in 2 out of those 3 weeks. Yeah, they're still the worst on the season.
But they have the lowest touchdown drive allowed rate in the last 3 weeks, like best in the NFL.
Yeah.
They've gone, and I think that was the number. So they had the worst touchdown drive rate through week 5, and now they have the best since that point.
Yeah, so it's always interesting, like what actually matters. Is it the trend? If the Bills had played them in week 3 when they gave up 70 to the Dolphins, it's like, well, they were just playing bad back then. Was it matchup stuff? Either way, I think Denver is going to be a lot more competitive on that side of the ball going forward than what we saw earlier in the season.
Yeah, and that makes them quite a dangerous team because the offense was better than people. Last year the whole thing was Russ is bad, the offense stinks, everyone's fired. Sean Payton comes in to fix it, and then he kind of did. The offense was better. It's just that nobody cared because the defense was giving up 70 to Miami. If the defense has gotten back on track, like now we're going to start noticing that, hey, the offense is better than it used to be. Like suddenly Denver's actually quite a formidable team.
Yeah, but even the offense has been real inconsistent these last few weeks. Russ has not played great, and they've won their last 2.
And the third was against Kansas City, where they kept them, it was tight.
Kansas City's defense shut them down in week 6. I think it's a good game because 7.5 is a huge number, man. Because Buffalo's a team that used to cover that pretty easily, and now they're not, man. Now they're not. They're playing down to the Giants. They're losing to the Patriots. I think Buffalo definitely showing some weakness. Buffalo's splits are also really interesting pre and post Matt Milano. Losing Matt Milano in the middle of that defense. When we talk about force multiplier effects and everything, sometimes, like, is that one of the big? Is that the biggest deal for Buffalo? Losing an elite linebacker like Milano, losing Tre'Davious White earlier in the season. Are they just getting so beat up on that side of the ball? And then I want to highlight Von Miller again. Von Miller revenge game here, but Von Miller doing absolutely nothing coming off of injury. Now, did he just come back too soon? Is this what he's going to be? Is he just playoff Von Miller because he's had 2 of the best playoff stretches you've ever seen for defensive players, 2015 and 2021, on Super Bowl runs? That's a huge question mark for me for Buffalo.
Yeah, the linebacker thing I think is significant. I mean, they had already lost Tremaine Edmonds. They lose Matt Milano. They've been getting injured at that spot repeatedly. There's other guys going down in the secondary as well. I mean, the defense is really taking a battering in terms of injuries at key positions, and you would expect it to have an impact, right? Like we act sometimes like injuries they are part of the game. They are irrelevant things. To a certain extent, you kind of have to just factor it in and roll on, but it makes a difference. Like, it's going to change the way the unit is able to perform overall. I think that's a big part of that defense not looking the way it's supposed to look.
Just to back that up further, and it's more getting into some off-season discussion here, but I've been doing some research. We've rejigged our WAR metric a little bit, so redone some past seasons, altered the algorithm a little bit, we'll say. And one of the findings that I had here was the difference between elite players and, say, average to below average players at a given position. Call it the standard deviation, basically. How important are elite players at certain positions versus others? And the most important positions to have elite players rather than average or below average players are receiver, edge, and then it was linebacker was third. And that was another one that I feel like that was true through the years, but we talk about linebacker as a low-value position, but it felt true when Luke Kuechly was around in Carolina. It feels true with Bobby Wagner. Like, it feels true. And Matt Milano is an elite linebacker, and I do think Buffalo is feeling that. And maybe it's because they affect the run game. They affect what you do in coverage, especially in a zone-heavy NFL. So, again, when we look at Buffalo's problems, I think Ben Solak was highlighting it this week. Like, Buffalo's underlying metrics are still great, but they're not winning games. And usually the underlying metrics are going to win out. So, like, don't write off the Bills. But it does feel like they're finding their way defensively without Milano. They're finding their way offensively with some injuries and Dalton Kincaid taking more of the workload. I think they'll get there. But yeah, it's interesting what's happening on defense for Buffalo.
It's also specifically the drop-off, I think, is in coverage. Like Matt Milano is one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. Tremaine Edmonds, for as much, like when he was, I think, the best graded linebacker in the NFL last year in coverage. And even before he was grading well, he had the range and the athleticism and the insane physical tools. They gave him difficult coverage assignments.
It's a double whammy.
Yeah, so you're losing all of that, and you're replacing them with guys who are grading their struggling area is all in coverage, right? Whichever linebacker you're looking at for Buffalo, the weakness of their game this season is coverage. So in addition to those guys keep being given slightly less insane asks anyway, so everything's been made a lot worse in that area, which has a knock-on effect for the guys behind them. Like those guys have to do more now. They have to cover a broader range of ground. It's definitely going to affect things.
All right, man. Lots to break down in this game. I think it'll be a fun Monday Night Football game. I know it's 7.5, and it feels like the Bills should be way better than the Broncos, but Broncos are trending in the right direction. Bills are a little shaky recently. 7.5. Where are you going here?
I am going to go Denver to cover that.
Interesting. I don't want to agree with you on this one, so I'll go Buffalo. I keep picking them to cover big spreads when they come up, so we'll stick with that. Give me the Bills to cover the 7.5.
Because it's worked out so well.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm trying to mix up our picks a little bit here because we've agreed a bunch.
Okay. I don't know that's the goal here is to
pick the right game.
But yeah,
give me the Bills.
Okay.
Anyway, because I said the underlying metrics are there for Buffalo to be better than their 5-4. All right, man, it was a great show. A shorter week, and we still go 10 minutes over. It's how we do it. Easy. Play to the competition. Somebody should put over. They should have bets on our show length.
The only person
in the Discord
degenerate enough to do that is the late Dr. Eager.
He should join the Discord and set something up.
Start running a book.
Over under
is that
2
even
hours.
Legal?
It's like it's a 16-game schedule. Will it go over 2 hours and 35 minutes or under? Set it based off the number of games.
You're going to have the late Dr. Eager arrested under RICO charges or something.
I'll be all right. All right, we're done here. You'll be here tomorrow breaking down Panthers-Bears with Brad. Mm-hmm. I love when Brad shows up on a Friday to do a little Bears.
Post-Bears game, yeah.
Post-Bears review here. All right, thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again. I'll see you again on Monday reviewing all the Week 10 NFL action.